everybody. Welcome to the show. It's great to have so many people here in the chat. Lighting it up as always. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to be talking about an exciting project, one everybody's been really looking forward to. Tonight, we're going to be discussing Groken from Kenneth Rocafort. This campaign kind of went really fast. Like, you'd have to jump on the boat really early to have caught it, and quite a number of people did. And now we're fulfilling, and well, we'll see how the panel takes to it once we get into our discussion tonight. So look forward to that. Let's jump into the chat. Say hello to who's here tonight. We have first commenting Mr. Ruckus. He says, "What a disappointment." And Ruckus, I haven't seen you around in so long. You are missed. I've heard things. I hope everything's going well. So please. Don't be a stranger. Pop in whenever you can, and always kick prime. That's a very important rule to remember. That big bag of moisture does no good. Speaking of moisture, we have Jabba the Gay. He is a gay, everybody, just so that we're clear. He says, "End your YouTube career, well-read anus. It's for the greater good." Well, Jabba, that's mean that you would say that. How dare you accuse me of having a career? Horrendous commentary. Aldous says, "Good evening, all." Good evening, Aldous. Great to see you in the chat. Thank you so much for being here, and it's always appreciated to have your company. Wilberforce Wooster says, "Greetings." Thank you. Oni64 is channeling a little testify. He says, "End this stream now." Would that we could, Aldous, Oni64. Would that we could. But unfortunately, the stream must go on, and we all must suffer through it. We're all in this together, so just strap in. Snuggy Jr. says, "Hail the chat. Elbow cough, elbow cough, elbow cough." Oh, that's the swooshes. It doesn't show up on StreamYards, but yeah. Great to have you here, Snuggy. I think it's going to be a pretty good show. I mean, we got some Crack Pack representation here today. So that's always exciting, and yeah, we're thankful that they're able to join us. Velnet is here. And moving on, we also have Steve Della Vega. That's the Saigon whore who ate my nose off. Ate my nose off, I suppose. But well, I hope you get your revenge, Stephen, because nobody should ever do that to a man's nose. Quite an offense. Wilberforce points out that I've disappointed yet again. Aldous concurs. Yes, well. I mean, that's par for the course. Linkovich is having a good time, though. He says it's disco time. So, yeah, everybody, let's disco and talk about comics. Chat is really, really packed today. So I'll jump through a couple more people, and then we'll get to the panel. Quaff is asking, "Where's Liam?" Well, he's not here, and I don't think he's ever going to be here, because he's a quite sensitive little runt, wouldn't you know? But, someday he'll break out of his shell and grow up to be a real boy. The thing I enjoy most about this show is well-read makes me sound less monotone. Well, I don't know what to say. Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm not trying, but okay. Gen X Strong says, "Hail the chat." Hail back, Gen X Strong, and thank you for being here as always. Go check out Gen X Strong's channel. He's just a kid from Brooklyn, longtime CGer, and great to have him in the chat. Okay, so with that, we'll probably get to bringing a couple of people on at this point. So please welcome Moonshine.
Well, Red, don't claim to be monotone.
Don't. I can't claim the monotone moniker.
No.
That belongs to you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I apologize for stealing any of your thunder. Speaking of thunder and totally the opposite of monotone, everybody please welcome one of the Crack Pack's most crackin' packer, OC Steve.
Konnichiwa, gents. Welcome everybody, a part of the Crack Pack that came out tonight. Rocaforce Nation in the place to be with your main man and one half of Monday Night Mayhem, OC Steve. Thanks for the invite, gentlemen.
Oh, it's amazing to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. And bow and hail Crack
You
Pack.
never need to thank Well-Read for inviting you. It's not necessary.
Hey, anytime, any place where Crack Pack is present, there's a party. So let's sit back, relax, take those pants off, grab a brewski, and we're going to be talking about Ken Rocafort. So let's get it on, gents.
Well, I'm way ahead of you, mostly in the pants off department. But let's see. We also have Spirits Car saying, "No, we're both monotone, Moonshine." So maybe we can.
I want to dispel a myth because all this one of the CG talk for brethren that we always congregate on every Saturday night feels that he's monotone. And I got to tell you, man, he's not monotone. In comparison to a lot of other people around in the comics gates continuum, you are not monotone. You have moments where Aldous gets on that soapbox and he gives you a very righteous rant, and I just don't see it, man.
Are you referring to Aldous?
Yes, when Aldous gets on a run on Saturday nights, and I'm pretty sure that we will have some heated discussions this upcoming Saturday because a lot of pop culture stuff has transpired. Especially, he is not very fond of what happened last night with Moon Knight. So I would say set your dial this Saturday night at 10 o'clock Eastern, and you're going to be in for a treat.
Moonshine, what did you have to do with last night?
What?
There
He said Moon Knight. That's a
Oh.
Disney character.
What happened
Yes.
with Moon Knight?
Well, Marvel, not, but it's Disney now.
Is there some?
I haven't
controversy?
watched it. I can't tell you. You have to tune in Saturday night, and Adulsus will tell
Oh,
you.
okay. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, check it out, man. This guy, all this is one. I affectionately call him the Pulp Pope, as he likes to preach and grandstand about the yesteryear that is pulp comic books. But one other thing in the mainstream that he loves the most is Moon Knight. He is a big, adamant fan of the voice and vengeance vessel of Khonshu. And I'm pretty sure he is going to be giving it a tongue lashing, needless to say, on Saturday night.
Well, somebody who never shies away from a good tongue lashing, as long as he's the one giving it, please welcome the real victim, JDA.
I'm the victim here.
Oh, JDA. It's good to see you again, my friend. We need to continue these conversations.
Let the healing begin.
Before the confrontation begins in the squared circle eventually in the CG Wrestling Federation.
Yes. Oh my
JDA
gosh.
had a stream earlier today with Martino. That was pretty
had
good.
2 streams. I've streamed for 6 hours today.
Oh my.
I'm going full Ethan.
Hey, but you
Yes.
didn't pull a camel moon and show up 90 minutes into it. So you're keeping your commitments, man.
Whew.
Way to keep it professional, JDA.
It was definitely fashionably late, but only that.
It was fashion. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Late
Yes.
streams.
We haven't gotten to the stream yet. We're still just in the banter.
Okay, the chat wants you to talk about the book now, Will Red.
Oh.
Get to the book. Get to the meat.
No, they don't.
Can I quickly just bring up comments?
We can just
from the
skip
last
that
stream?
part.
Quickly.
Well, I mean, why would we want to skip our wonderful commenters from our previous streams? So,
I meant skipping the book. Don't skip that part.
oh, the book.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
Just
isn't
kind
the
of
book,
say it's been done and then move on to the next segment. I think everybody would be happier.
the book's the best part. I mean, that's
It
what
is.
we're all here for. Okay, well,
We
I'm
are.
not going to spoil it, I guess.
It's the meat and potatoes. It really draws the room together.
Last time we talked about, well, I didn't get a chance to go over these comments, but it was Testament by Chimera. And there were 3 comments. Quickly just going to run through them. Jack Stafford, always a loyal commenter. He says, thanks for the stream. I'm familiar with Chimera from the chat, but hadn't seen his work. Very nice. Story looks interesting. Nice art. Solid all around. Hope to see more from Chimera. So I think that's definitely on its way. And there were a lot of interesting things being said by Aldous about future Testament projects. So be on the lookout for those. KSSS says, another beautiful reading of Goodnight Moon. Exactly how Mom read it. Bravo. Yeah, look forward to a possible another reading of
Wait a
Goodnight
minute.
Moon
I
tonight.
feel bad for anyone who has a mom that sounds like Well Read.
I sound like many a mom. How dare you? Well Read punishes us all once again. So
I agree with
definitely
that.
give that a thumbs up. So thank you everybody who commented, and yeah, just quickly giving everybody a little notification. We always appreciate it. Like and subscribe, hit the notifications, and comment on the streams. Those are always great things to do. and support the channel. With that, I know everybody's already getting restless, weary with anticipation. We're going to be talking about Groken, sci-fi fantasy graphic novel by Kenneth Rocafort. So I guess we can delve a little bit into backstory. The way I understand it is Kenneth came into CG fairly early on. And this project kind of was a little under the radar. He didn't promote a whole lot on the bigger streams. And he also didn't go into in demand, kind of like John Malin. But still managed to get 1,000 backers for it and 85K, which is not too shabby.
Twitless is correct. Well read the wrong stream.
Yeah, I went back to Testament because I hadn't read those comments yet. But I'll go catch up on the other stream, on the next stream. There was one comment there. So, but, oh, wait. Spirit Scar says, last time Well read a comment of mine on stream. He turned crazy against me. I mean, Risey. Oh, I haven't seen Risey in ages. He's missed.
Risey's been around. He's not as much.
Yeah, he's kind of doing his own thing a little bit, but that's cool. So how did you three hear about Groken? Were you there at that key moment when he was actually promoting the book and got to get in on the ground floor while there was still an opportunity to do so?
I don't know. I just like got a book in the mail and I was like, what the heck is this? I don't remember backing this. And then that was it.
I think that's a commonality with Comicsgate. Sometimes if they're not one of the loudest voices in the room, then a lot of times you forget sometimes that you back stuff and then magically just something pops up and it's a pleasant surprise. For me, it was kind of the flip side. I caught it ultra late, but I've been familiar with Ken's work as a cover artist here in CG, and I got like Ultra Star and a couple other things, and I literally kind of bit myself when I missed out the fact that it didn't go into demand. And I went, look, man, if you're hitting a con or anything of the above where I can get a second opportunity to pick this bad boy up, let me know. And he's like, well, if I got any extras, and he's a man of his word, I'll get you one and I'll sell you one. And he did. So I have a lot of respect for somebody that remembers just random people talking about his book and talking about his art, willing to step up to the plate and going, hey, dude, here you go. Here's a book coming your way. And I really dig that about him. That's a class act to let a fan or somebody that really wants to check out your work pretty much get a direct on demand from the man, you know?
Yeah.
So it sounds like he's really got his customer service game locked down. And really takes care of his customers. So that's really great to hear, especially from a big name creator like Kenneth coming into CG. Now, I guess going into the campaign a little bit, the things that people were able to grab had they backed it early on was a copy of the book for $25. There were several covers, I believe. So three covers. And you were able to get each one either individually or as a pack.
I think a third was added later, perhaps.
I know that you sent me okay, so here's a 3-cover pack.
No,
that's okay. Cover A with the 2 mini books.
I would like to point out that this price itself, this purchase I did back is nuts, because you're paying $25 for the main book, and these 2 tiny comics are worth twice as much as that. I don't know why it was priced this way, but apparently a lot of people backed it anyway.
The ash cans being priced at $25 in addition to the main book, I think came from the first Cyberfrog campaign, and I think everybody kind of just copied that.
Followed suit.
Well, I mean, yeah, John Malin did that as well. But that I understand. That's like standard Comicsgate. But these 2 mini books are like 1 ash can, but together they're $50. So that's like twice as much.
I didn't bother with it. I just got the book because I saw the same thing. I'm like, this is a little much for those.
Well, I looked at this and I backed it at the end of March of last year, which I believe was like a week or two after Xenotype. So I'm pretty certain I backed this thinking, oh, we'll probably review this. So I might as well back this shit, even though it's wildly overexpensive.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're essentially their own comics, completely separate from the main story, or are they
Not
backstory?
exactly. We'll get into it.
All right.
There's some things to discuss with that.
Interesting. I wonder if it helps you understand kind of the setup of everything a lot better because,
Yeah, that's something else I
Yeah.
want to talk about. I have a different opinion than other people, but I realized I have a different opinion as soon as I read it. I saw what was going on. It's like, oh, I don't know if people are going to like this.
Well, I mean, it's good to be different. That's what makes CG so interesting. All the variety that we have here. All the covers and all the mini covers. So, okay, let's count this out. 1, 2, 3 covers and 2 mini comics.
Yes.
So there we go. And I believe Kenneth does the cover art for all the covers. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, his art is beautiful. I mean, I don't remember backing it, and I didn't remember who Kenneth was until I looked him up. But once I did, I was like, oh, that's probably why I backed it. I got it.
Does he do his own coloring as well?
I think, yes. I think it was all him.
Wow. It's pretty stunning work all around. Definitely.
Impressive.
Matt C would like this because it's listed as created, written, drawn, colored, lettered, and edited by Kenneth Rocafort.
Renaissance man all around, dude.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a couple of those in CG, so it's great to see them able to flourish here. So I guess let's get into the story a little bit. So what exactly is Groken about? Moonshine?
Why do you always ask me to do story summaries when you know I hate it?
Because I know you hate it, so take it away.
It's a weird monster creature that goes on adventures. There you go.
That was awful, Moonshine.
Well, that's
Oh,
what
see-
you deserve.
LC Steve, would you like to show him how it's done?
Yeah, I would say the best way to describe it is if you're a fan of heavy metal, if you've enjoyed movies like Wizards or Fire and Ice from back in the day, that is this melding of a world where sci-fi and fantasy are literally going head to head with each other to who's trying to claim dominance of kind of like, it's not really dystopian, but this world in itself, then that's essentially the world that you're introduced to in this first issue of Groken. You get to kind of see who is the guys that'll eventually rise up to fight the current evil, kind of, if you will. And it's just an open world building experience. And it's really neat to see kind of how science is trying to manipulate magic and try to create it into something for itself as kind of the undertone of the book.
Wow, that's a pretty stunning pitch. JDA,
It's not
do you,
wrong. I agree that is the general scope of the book.
JDA, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a big, sweeping, epic sort of deal. I don't agree that it's not dystopian. I think it definitely comes across as dystopian, though. So
I just was saying because I didn't know if they haven't really hashed out if it's set on another world altogether or if this is some bastardized version of Earth in the far distant future. So I mean, didn't really want to plant a flag too deep on that.
Well, I don't know if you can base it on Earth, but it definitely says there was like a time of magic, and then technology came in, and now it's this dystopian world from what was, at least. At least that's the implication.
Now, is Groken the character we're seeing here in white? He's essentially the protagonist.
Yes.
That's the story revolves around.
Yeah, he is the protagonist.
Does it open with world building, or does it start with character development and backstory on Groken?
So
himself?
this is where choice was made. I like doing this. There's novels I read that do that, though they're very rare and controversial. He starts with a crazy man in prison, so it's essentially just a piece of the world, and it
it doesn't
starts
exactly start with that, though. There's a pre-start to that, then there's that.
Yeah, but it's him talking to himself in prison. As you read it, you realize,
Yeah.
oh, this is him talking to himself. So it throws you right into the world. Him talking to himself describes it slightly, but you're not given a character. This isn't like the Lord of the Rings where you're introduced to the world through Frodo. That's the standard way you would tell the story. And as they learn things, you learn things. This is more of it throws you into an instance and events happen. Now, generally, you would not want to do it this way. I think he does it rather well, but even if you do it well, it leads to confusion. I like it when stories do things like this because I like things happening. I don't want a story to just explain the world to me because I find that boring. I want things and people to interact. But you will be sort of confused, although it kind of works because you're a crazy man in a prison and he's supposed to be rather confusing. So you're kind of matching the tone of the book to the reader's experience right at the beginning. That's at least my perspective.
Also, with that approach, how does it establish the conflict for the main
Well,
character?
I'd like to hear someone else's opinion. That's because that's going to be very controversial.
It
to like this.
doesn't is the answer. And I mean, I love the art all the way through. The art is so stunning. Like, I am floored by it. The conceptual drawings of all these, like, all the different like creatures and the backgrounds and just like the cool little artistic representations are freaking stunning. And I don't want to take away from that because it's like, I mean, that on that level, it's 10 out of 10.
Can you go
But
to
like,
the picture with the green thing? Because I think that illustrates the creature design. So
yeah,
this is like a hideous creature,
so
but
cool.
notice its ears are kind of like normal human ears. It's like there's all these creatures are just like nightmare
Science
fuel.
experiments
It's
is
really
is
cool.
what it's implied as.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, it didn't really. I mean, it mentions in near the beginning that it's like, there's going to be somebody to take the crown, and his name is Groken, and then it really just like talks about all this other stuff. It shows up like some elf adventurer person shows up, and there's a fight thing, and then Groken kind of just arrives in the middle of it,
So
and
go ahead,
yeah,
finish your
it's
thought.
really like it's really all over the map with like way too many characters being introduced, like, and none of them really given a reason to be introduced. Like, you don't even get a sense of what's going on by the end of the book.
So I would take it. It just throws you into an event, and particularly the prologue with the crazy man. That's not connected at all. You can maybe make some assumptions about who he is, but after that, like events happen, and there'll probably just be one or two connecting characters to connect them at all. So it's giving you world building by pieces, and as JDA says, he hates it. So you're not going to necessarily like this. I find it interesting when you do storytelling this way, but it's not going to be for everyone.
Yeah, it's was a little too tough to follow and see where it's going, and um, you know, maybe it will by book two. I really feel pretty strongly, especially when you're not just doing a single issue. I mean, this is what 40, 50, 60 pages somewhere in there.
It's 3
Like,
chapters, yeah.
yeah, I mean, especially when you're doing something like that, you should be able to like solidly know what's going on, where it's going at that point.
Have you
And I feel
ever
like it
read?
just jumps from character to character to character for like a different, and each one of them has a different story going.
Have you ever read Gardens of the Moon?
No.
Okay, well, if you probably would hate it because it does this exact same thing, and it makes an effort not to connect events. It slowly happens as you realize characters get in both kind of story beats that are running concurrently. But yeah, it does very little hand holding at all. It's like you got to figure it out on your own. I find it interesting because it engages me to think about a book, but as for a comic book, I think in general most readers probably don't like this type of storytelling.
Yeah, it bodes itself towards like a big epic fantasy novel more than like
Hmm.
a comic book, and there's going to be a thing here where like it could all tie together. I mean, it's very ambitious maybe, I mean, there's a lot going on, and it just barely scratched the surface and introduced all of these characters and all of these events. So he's got a lot of pressure and setup to be able to pull it off. I don't know when. I can't see it happening in book 2. I mean, it almost seems like this is set up for like a book 10, book 12
Well, can you show
sort of thing.
I have a picture of the character list.
Yeah.
You go to that one. That's all the characters in 48 pages
That's a lot.
that are
Yeah.
relevant at all.
Yeah, I'm sure it can come together over several books. We can't judge that right now, though. So for this standing on its own, it doesn't really stand on its own, and that's kind of the issue with it.
I mean,
But
I
like
think
the first half of the list there is kind of like if you break it down, like the midsection of those guys are pretty much going to be, from what you could visually tell in the beats of the story, those are going to technically kind of be the bad guys, and then the lower half of those guys are kind of all those bards that were hanging out at that bar that weren't really trying to get involved in that big city kind of clash. And you can tell that that's going to kind of be his band of merry men, so to speak, that are going to kind of be these reluctant heroes, except for obviously that one of the couple last 3 guys near the end, which is probably going to be like a bigger bad, the one that kind of has that jowl, the Inquisitor at the bottom. Like you can kind of tell that him and Groken are eventually going to be crossing swords. So I mean, you could kind of tell, like, here's the group of bad guys, here's the group of good guys. I mean, it didn't bug me that much being a kid of the 80s when you watch something like Thundercats or Transformers, especially Transformers, where they were introducing a new group of characters or new group of villains at the drop of a hat. I think it's kind of this narrative. What they were trying to do is to show you the world and show you the players in the world. And then ultimately, hopefully this is like, okay, this is kind of your introductory. This is your tutorial. And then we're going to hit the ground
from a writing
running.
perspective, though, like you really do need a clear motivation. Like just to have a story, you need a hero who like has at least a call to action in a book 1 of like a meaningful sort of thing where he's going to have to deal with the quote villain. And you're just speculating that that's going to be the villain at this point. We really don't know where it's going. I mean, it didn't establish that really. It's established it's a bad guy and he's bad, but you didn't really get a motivation. You didn't get the call to action there. You didn't really get any foreshadowing of any of that interaction. That's at least not obvious. And so that made it really hard to follow as it just jumped from scene to scene to scene with different characters.
I would point out, though, there's some humor even in this list of characters. Some of these characters are only in the background and do almost nothing. So it's
kind of a joke.
This is a joke as well. It's not completely serious. Yeah. And for example, like that character on the bottom is a tiny little picture in a panel. It's a joke. It's like, can you find this character? If you've ever read One Piece, there's kind of that humor going throughout this comic as well. 48 pages.
Aldous, and I'd love to get Aldous on sometime to talk about books because he's got interesting takes. He says, I don't think it's all over the map, but it does come across more as a prologue more than a concise story. It's different in a good way, but will be hard to access for some.
I would say yes. There is definitely a prologue that at the moment doesn't quite connect, but you get hints. If you look at all the scenes, there's usually at least one character that's in 2 scenes, and that's connecting these scenes together. It's very subtle how it's connecting, but they are definitely connected. I would agree with that.
What did you think, OC Steve? Where was the tether that tied everything together for you, that allowed you to follow the narrative kind of going through the story? Was it the Roken character, or was there something at play that you found fascinating throughout the 50 pages?
Yeah, I would just say the world. I think that Groken, obviously, there were scenes with him in it, but just getting glimpses of different sections of this immersive kind of fantasy world, and kind of, at least my understanding while reading it was like, okay, it's going to be a call to arms. Obviously, I didn't really anticipate that he would see him do anything. He's kind of a reluctant hero, especially kind of being a creature of this world. He doesn't really want to get involved too much. Also, kind of reading the mini books. That's what I kind of got too. Like they kind of capture him, and it is what it is. And he goes to the scientific area. So there, obviously, the second book is going to, at least in my mind, going to be the call to arms. What drives him? What kind of starts to kind of kick the tires, so to speak, for him. So this was just kind of letting you see a giant panoramic view of the fantasy world that eventually he's going to start filling in as the main hero.
Well, so was it like a, I don't know, like a sketchbook, or was there a narrative to actually follow through the comic?
I would say the biggest narrative in the book was kind of that prisoner, where he's kind of being a narrator as these other glimpses of the world are happening. He's kind of the tether through it, at least for me. And, you know, him being held captive, them wanting to know the secret of where other fantasy creatures like dragons and things are left in this world that they can kind of transmogrify and manipulate and turn into something else. And whether or not maybe down the line Groken is one of those things that they forementioned and maybe it was something else, is kind of alluded to, not necessarily too deep for me, but it would be a nice little footbeat to see moving forward, exactly trying to figure out what he is and what his importance is in the scheme between this clash between fantasy and science, you know?
There is a narrative arc with Groken. His story is essentially a prison break, and he's being chased after. And the connection is all these other characters want something he has, and they keep mentioning him escaping with his item that allows him to translocate. One wants him, the other wants him to be experimented on. So those are kind of the two villainous characters. And then there's their minions. So if you separate out the prologue and the epilogue, that's the story. It's actually, it probably takes a couple of read-throughs, but then you realize, oh, this is just his prison break from being captured. And it makes a little more sense if you read the mini comics, because those are more of a straightforward storytelling of Groken's early life. His caretaker gets captured, and then him growing up, and then he gets captured, and then kind of the adventure. So that's like more standard storytelling. That's kind of just following Groken's perspective. It's 16 pages both together. So if you read that, you kind of get an idea this comic's taking place somewhere after the fact. I don't know how much, because these mini comics are actually volume 1 of Groken, so that were published previously. I don't know when, but that's what I gathered from them.
What about I think OC mentioned that there was foreshadowing for things to come. Did you feel like that was a big part of the story as well?
I mean, every character matters, but it doesn't hold your hand. So like, they're doing something, and you kind of have to piece together why this could matter. You got to also piece it together. They're doing specifically back to the epilogue with the crazy old man. Enzo is his name. And so if you want to do that, I find it very interesting, because it's kind of like a puzzle you get to solve if you're interested in solving. If you're not interested, then it probably just seems random scenes of a crazy, well-drawn world.
I don't remember, but Moonshine, did you review Lucent with us?
Yes. Yeah, that's since you haven't read the books, I find that interesting. Yeah, that's the book this reminds me of. There's a mystery, and it's not telling you all the information yet. This book actually reminds me of the Lucent quite a bit.
Okay. Well, so, and I know JDA said that he didn't think this worked as a story writing trope. You feel that it did, though, as long as you're willing to wait it out for follow-up issues to flesh everything out.
I don't know if I would say it would work. It depends on your reader base. It works for me, but for a general comics skate or comics community, I don't know. It's a pretty daring choice to tell a story this way, I would say.
I have a message from Pangea.
Okay.
J Dollar Sign says, "Say well read as a chump." Would you like to send a message back to Jay Dollar Sign?
Tell him I love him and he's a sexy piece of man meat.
I love him, and he's a sexy piece of man
Meat.
meat.
Yes.
Okay. Be right back.
Okay. Well, while JDA is chatting away with his girlfriends, we can get back to talking about the comic.
Chimera makes a comment, and yeah, to the date, it almost fulfilled 1 year after it launched, which is relatively fast for Comicsgate.
Oni64 says it should have been 64 pages. I wonder if there were missing pieces, or did it feel like a complete package? Do you think this was the book that Kenneth
Go
intended
ahead,
to
finish your
release?
question.
Does this feel like the book Kenneth intended to release, or is there any attribute of it possibly being rushed?
Well, the main story arc definitely ends on a cliffhanger, but it's a pretty intentional cliffhanger. It's a single episode. I don't, it's probably, I don't think 12 pages would help you out too much in that regard. So I think it's a fine stopping point where it stops. But
What about you, OC? Did you want more in what you were given, or are you just looking forward to the follow up, knowing what's been laid out here in this story?
I would say just because I got the 2 mini comic books, I could see where somebody like would say the comment like, "Oh, it needed 64 pages or something that or the other." I felt that those 2 mini comic books were kind of a great kind of prologue to the whole thing, and definitely maybe in some remastered edition, maybe like a director's cut or something like that. If Ken in the future wants to just add those as full sized.
Did they make it a lot easier to understand? Like, that's what I was curious about for the most part.
In my mind, yeah, because it was the
Yeah.
whole thing. Like, I could see where some people just bought the book and they didn't buy the mini comic books, that they feel like maybe they missed a beat.
Yes, that's how I felt. Yeah. Interesting.
Like I said, it's also 2 different narratives with the mini comic books, like what Moonshine was talking about, where it lays out that he got captured, where they're going, where they're heading. So it kind of starts the story moving along versus kind of just being dropped into it, where I could see where like you were at, John.
And
That's kind of a big deal. Like,
and there's very few characters in the mini comic. It's Groken and his captors and a reference to who is his father-like figure. That's about it. That's all the characters.
Yep.
I mean, having that, I feel like that just from what you told me, it sounds like a much better filling starting narrative.
Yeah, I think it would have started at the races. So that's why I'm like, if he wants to put out, maybe I know that he's gonna be dropping the mailing list for Groken 2, and there will be a catch-up tier. But if I was to repackage Groken for that follow-up tier, I probably would put the mini comic books as a collected edition with the first issue of Groken, just so you get a better kind of immersive experience.
Okay, so I guess setting aside the structure of the storytelling, what about dialogue and characterization? How effective were those in making you care or be interested in these individual characters, since there's such a wide cast of them?
I think I'd rather someone else talk about what they thought first, because things I find interesting probably aren't what anyone else finds interesting.
Steve, since JDA is gossiping with his gal pals, do you want to tell us, what did you...
Oh no, I left. It was too loud. There were too many people talking. I couldn't understand.
Too big of a
anybody.
party for JDA, man.
Yeah, I tried. I was gonna try to bridge both streams together, because I'm always a bridge that brings people together. But it was just, there was too much talking. I couldn't hear anybody
He's
on
used to
either
his
side of things.
former Corona Del Mar life, where he gets to look down at the poor peasant people of Newport Beach and throw
Exactly.
at bread.
Yes.
So he's very used to intimate private parties.
So I closed it out because they were playing Liam, and I didn't want to listen to Liam. So
Toss some sardines to the seals. Steve, I'll stay with you though. What did you think of the characters? Were any one of them? Did any of them particularly stand out to you? Did you like the characterization and the personalities that were being presented here?
I would say yes to all the above. I would say the one that kind of kept my interest is because it's kind of really hard. Groken's kind of one of these characters that's just there, and we don't really see him react to it. I mean, the one character that caught my eye in this first book was really the prisoner, and I was like, at first, visually, I'm like, he's the most bland for Ken as a character, but he's setting up all the history. He's telling you everything. He's kind of filling in a lot of the world building. So it was kind of interesting. And the secret, obviously, Groken kind of has the MacGuffin that everybody wants, other than being a fantasy creature. But that was the narrative that kind of was the thread in the sweater for me.
What did you think, John? Did you like any of the characters in particular? What did you think of the
Yeah,
dialogue?
I thought the prisoner's narrative was interesting, and when it stopped and switched abruptly, I really didn't think I didn't think that did anything. You know, like again, like when you're doing a weaving thing like this, you really need to come back to things to like make it all move along, and I felt like that didn't quite do that. So that was the most interesting sort of narrative, probably. And then the second was the Lord Helianthus, I guess, with his
The
like
centipede
regenerating
guy.
people.
Right, yeah.
Pretty cool. So that was pretty compelling as a bad guy kind of start to things. As far as like the heroes, like none of them really. You didn't really. The elf guy, I forget his name. What was the elf guy's name? Gennaro. Yeah.
Gennaro, yeah.
He was like the only one you got to spend any time really connecting with, and he was the only one you really got to see any motivation out of. So like, but the others, like, I mean that really nailed it. Like you mentioned, that Groken's just kind of there, and he just kind of shows up for a couple pages.
Yeah,
You know,
Groken's kind
with
of the Keanu Reeves of the story.
Yeah, with the book being titled Groken and Groken being on the main cover and being the person who's going to take the kingdom, you know, according to the story at the beginning, like that's kind of just like I was just wondering who's Groken the whole time I was on, and then I look at the elf guy shows up. I'm like, is that Groken? Then I'm like, oh, is the old man Groken? And then it's like, oh, it's actually this other dude who's got a mask on who shows up for 2 pages. That's kind of like the narrative wise why it didn't feel like it worked for me, because you know when you get the setup and promise that that's the main character, and then he's not the main character, it's kind of like this is a little bit rough. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned the old man crazy prisoner story. That was probably the best part of it in terms of just because you got to know the characters, and then the demons were pretty cool. So bad guy, whatever you want to call it, Demonius, Helanthius. Gosh, I can't, it's whatever.
The evil ones.
The evil ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's focus on something that I think is clearly a standout strength of the book. So in terms of like delivery for the plot and the different events that occur, how does the art tell the story, and how is the sequencing done by Kenneth? Does he knock it out of the park, or are there some areas there where also you feel like it could have used a bit more refinement?
The panel layouts and the even just like there's minor detail that goes into like the background of like the gutters of the panels in a lot of spots. I mean, it's just like it's pure eye candy. I mean, it's just beautiful all the way around. I mean, I have nothing to say other than wow at every step. The designs are so cool. I love, you know, the strong female lead. Well, you know, she's super cute and drawn very feminine and beautiful, and she has a very
when
cool
she's wearing her
outfit.
mask, and then it fakes
Except for
me
when
out.
she's wearing her mask, faked you out there. But
There you
once she
go.
stops wearing her mask, she is. And then the bad girl, demon girl,
Luna
is super hot too.
with
So
the dog, yeah, Tatu.
yeah,
I would say there's a lot of subtle storytelling through the art. For example, at one point, the crazy prisoner guy Enzo is saying, "I hear echoes," but before that, you see all these lines zinging every way, so it's already telling you he's hearing something. It does that quite often, and like it tells you like this thing. It's like you look at this and it's already telling you there's some mix between fantasy and like gene splicing or some crazy shit going on with this woman. I mean, that design isn't really like you see in anything. It's like there's just a lot
Yeah.
of creativity in these character designs.
No, I really can't compare it to anything. I'm trying to think of stuff to compare it to, and I'm just like it seems familiar, like, but it isn't. But it is very unique.
That's where it kind of felt like he was kind of like playing in this kind of fantasy-esque. That's why really the vibes that I got from it are like wizards and heavy metal. Because
Although that like that eye coming out of her side, that kind of reminds me of Star Wars, and that eye would that come out of Jabba's palace, and
that's what I mean. He's
Yeah.
drawing a lot of footnotes from stuff and still putting his own spin on it. Like the one scene where the prisoner is talking about dragons, and you see that one page of the silhouette of dragons is that's like straight could be a heavy metal cover from back in the
Yes,
day, or
very
something
cool.
that you would see in a heavy metal magazine.
And there's just like connecting words. The panel, for example, he says a window, and he says, "Oh, not literally," and you see him drawing a dragon, but then it pulls out, and it looks like he's drawn like a rift in space time, and that's the window he's talking about. It's like it doesn't specifically say that, but you see the panel, and that's what you instantly think.
Yeah, this was just the best way to describe it is it's Ken off the leash of some mainstream thing, and he's doing all these beats. And if you're just a pop culture fan, if you're a fantasy fan and a sci-fi fan and enjoy kind of this other stuff, he's just having fun with it. And I think that's the vibe that at least I get from his art, is that he's enjoying what he's doing.
Yeah, you could just read nothing, look at every panel, and you would learn a lot about the story. And I guess John might even say you learned just as much as reading the story. But
Is it Jodorowsky's Dune? It just relishes in its own exuberance
it,
and
it's happy to
excessiveness.
just stay in a scene, and it's like things will be explained, but it's not gonna waste your time or maybe spend time you think is needed explaining things. It's like things happen, people say things as they're in the moment. They're not talking to you as the reader. They're talking as the event wants them to, and then the art follows what they're talking about. They're weird creatures doing weird things, like reviving a skeleton from the dead. But then someone else, Luna, will come in and mock, and it's like, how many times have you had to revive this guy? So it kind of plays up the high fantasy, but then like brings it down to the real world, which is this mixing of science and magic that's going on here in fantasy.
Did you have any standout moments or like favorite panels or pages, Steve, while you were reading through this?
Yeah, I would say that dragon panel really got me. I would also say when the elf's kind of on his little like kind of treasure planet hoverboard, when he was kind of jumping down in that one scene, those are really the two kind of standout ones for me.
What do you think, John? What genre do you think Kenneth's art style is best suited for? Like, if you were to do a project and you wanted Kenneth as potentially an artist, what would be the ideal pairing based on the talents that you're seeing him demonstrate here?
This sort of like wild fantasy actually is about perfect. So yeah, I mean, this is the genre he should be working in, 100%.
It reminds me a bit of steampunk, like Chris Baccello. Do you remember?
Yes.
Yeah, his work. I feel like I get some inspiration there, but he has definitely his own take on it. But sorry, go ahead, Munchan.
So this image I gave you for a specific reason. This is kind of like the standard D&D. This is just a normal guard, but there's just so much things on him, like gear and keys, and like even characters that are in the same army, they all look different, just like they would in a real world. It's not just the same person drawn 10 times. So there's just so much detail, and it's kind of like looking at a D&D adventure, like ramped up, maybe mixed with sci-fi.
Yeah, there's a lot of inspirations here in this style. It's definitely him working in his wheelhouse, though. I think I agree with you, John.
Although this also has like the humor I like. If you read back up on the panel, he's like, "At least they let you keep your helmet," and he says, "Hey, this is my hair." I don't, they mentioned that both of them. I mentioned they like Enzo, but what I find really endearing is the interaction between the guard and Enzo, because clearly they don't hate each other, but it's not like they're going to help each other. And their conversation is probably one of my favorite parts of this book. And then the cook comes in, Haifa, and there's more jokes with that. It's a very understated kind of dry humor that's is similar to, as I mentioned before, Gardens of the Moon, Erickson and Esselmo, two of River Fantasy series. And he has one that's almost pure comedy called Bach Lane and Quirble Brooch. And this seems like a scene right out of that. The way the prisoner and the prison and the prison guard are talking to each other.
Well, we spent a lot of time talking about the main book, and it sounds like it's essential to touch on the ash cans to really get a full understanding of the narrative here. So, would you like to give us a rundown? I guess since you don't want to be called on Moonshine, I'll ask Steve again. What do the ash cans cover that fills out the main story so well?
I think it sets up the beats where it really, it's essentially the three characters, the two Groken and his two captors, if you will, making their way through the fantasy world, ultimately for him to be incarcerated at the prison, where they're going to try to figure out whatever they're going to do with him. But I feel that you kind of get the tone of what's going on. And it just kind of, it's an opening, like I said, it's a nice little opening prologue to the world of Groken. It could easily be added to the book, and I think it would be an enhancement for a follow-up tier or a director's cut if you wanted to get kind of a better narrative where it's going to lead you in and then it'll fraction off like what John's talking about. So there's like one connective storyline and you get used to these three characters, and then it'll start expanding out infinitely and kind of retracting when you have the prisoner storyline, and then you get all the other heroes, you get all the crazy scientists and the demons and all this other kind of shit that's thrown at you, but you start with a nice little baseline in the beginning before it just kind of like goes into full-blown crazy mode.
So does it help to kind of ground the story then a little bit and give you something to anchor yourself to as you get carried away into this bigger menagerie plot that's introduced in the main story?
I would say so, because you definitely get more, at least visuals with Groken, because we didn't see him talk all that much. So at least you get that. So if you're going to call it Groken, you get your Groken definitely in that kind of prologue of those two little mini books.
Well, I guess just from the mini books alone, what kind of character is Groken?
Just kind of like, almost kind of like at least in my interpretation, is he's just a dude who's there. He's a fantasy creature, which, we're going to eventually find out exactly what he is and how he became to be, but he's just kind of a dude. I felt like he's like the fantasy version of Lebowski. He's just there. Like, he hasn't really found his purpose yet. He hasn't really had his call to arms. He's just one of these things living here, and it so happens that he has a magic kind of token or MacGuffin, if you will, that everybody wants to get their hands on.
That's actually an interesting description. The superhero version of the dude. That's pretty cool.
It also kind of implies that like his weird form isn't just what he was born as, that he's been experimenting on himself and augmenting himself after his father figure has been taken away. Because otherwise he kind of is just like a little kid that just, has that kind of horns and white face. But other than that, he looks kind of normal. So it's interesting, like he has like this mouth on his stomach, and like it might not be obvious at the first, but like they're looking into it. So that's like your first actual visual of Groken. So that's a strange way to obviously introduce him. If you read the short comics, you just see him, and that's probably more what people would want.
Do we get to see anything that he's capable of throughout the story? His powers and his
Oh yeah,
abilities?
there's an action sequence where he's fighting that giant green guy and escaping and what he does, and like he tells you he's purifying all these poisons he put him, and he's got like smokestacks on his back, burning off stuff. there's lots of things that he does, and like the amulet somehow can translocate him, like he knows how to use it.
Cool. Aldous says Steve really hit the phrasing perfectly for why I felt this was more like a prologue. Right. Well, it sounds like it would serve the entire arc well to have the ash cans appended to the main story and just release
Yeah,
it
it
all as
seems
one
like
complete
it.
book. Yeah.
Well, maybe, hopefully it'll be on the second campaign here, and maybe I'll have a happier opinion of the story once I get the second book with the ash cans too.
Yeah, I
I mean-
mean, like if I was his publisher and I was going to do a catch-up tier, I would just do a director's cut and I'd add the 2 mini comics to the first issue. It makes it a slam dunk that way, and it definitely makes the story that much more enhanced because you, like I said, you have one
How many pages
thread.
were the mini comics?
I think they were only like 8 a piece.
Oh, really?
12,
Yeah,
25
so-
bucks. That's yeah. That's the
Yeah,
tough
but
part.
that's where, somebody said the comment of like, oh, I wish it was 64 pages. Well, you get to about 64 pages if you have the mini comic books incorporated with it.
No,
And
it should be mentioned the art in the mini comics is much quicker style. It doesn't look like
Oh
that.
yeah, I don't. It might take some tinkering in order to get it to that size and that kind of blown up layout because I think he drew it small. So
I mean, it's much simpler design he's using because it is supposed to be just kind of a quick little story.
And
Although the art is still pretty impressive.
yeah,
compared
I
to
mean,
many
it's still
others.
Ken. So
Yeah.
it's colored as well in the
No,
ash
it's
cans?
black and white.
yep, just a simple kind of ash can kind of format.
Well, maybe Human has an opinion. He says, everyone keeps praising Kenneth's art. Don't know why. I find it very ugly and flat, at least from the images I saw for this campaign. I take it, though, on this panel, there's a resounding disagreement and agreement that the art is.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I
Yeah.
could maybe see why you think it's ugly. I don't understand the flat comment.
No, I mean, it harkened that this one right here, this kind of citadel that has been mounted down, like melted down or deteriorated or whatever's happened to it, reminds me of like another fantasy trope. Like I saw that and I thought of like the princess's tower from the Never-Ending Story. So like I'm like, there's a lot of these references that Ken knows what he's doing with the art to draw in nerds like me that are trying to get our geek fix, or crack pack, we're trying to get our crack. So I saw a lot of that. I saw even with the elf character, I saw, the Dark Crystal kind of vibe of the Gelflings with that. So he's drawing a lot from fantasy stuff, and he's also drawing a lot from, like I said, heavy metal, wizards, fire and ice. That's a lot of this stuff that was playing in the back of my head and seeing these footnotes. And it was just, a geek, fun little frolic in a different fantasy world through the vision of Ken Rocafort, which a lot of the times now fantasy has been reduced to a select handful of guys that are drawing shit for Wizards of the Coast and D&D, and it's nice to just go out to left field and see something different for once.
Absolutely.
All this points out, hey man, to each their own. Some people liked 499.
Yeah, well read.
Yeah, true.
I liked 499.
Hey, you know what? Different strokes, different folks. We all back our different kind of crack. So there you go, man.
I mean, some people like kind of the simplistic, very thick, get off and on kind of art of Tim Lim. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not my style. That's too simplistic for me. So
Or if you like heavy pencil, you can always go with John Romita Jr. So there you go.
Yeah, I think art can be subjective, but I guess some of it is unquestionably maybe unrefined. Let's.
but I mean, there's literally blacks in this image, so I don't understand. We're just not communicating. I don't understand the lack of blacks or calling it flat. That I don't understand.
But I think in terms of design, like this is extremely creative. I think that's unquestionable, and his detail is very attentive here. Definitely knows the aspects to accentuate, to make it at least interesting.
Yeah, and then you got all the different kind of fantasy creatures on the bottom there, where you see the organic and inorganic, and you can tell, with not necessarily seeing, they kind of see their outrage that something's happened, and obviously the guys that are stirring the pot in this world are the scientific. Like, yeah, that whole little skiff scene right here with the lance and the whole nine, that reminds me of Disney's Treasure Planet, kind of like a hoverboard skiff surf.
I mean, also, like, he does a great job with faces, and it's not just like he finds a real life face and traces it. He has his artistic style for a face, and he can make his characters have any emotion he needs for the scene. So that's always good to see as well.
And I guess for Twitless, this panel layout is pretty interesting as well. I like the sequencing here. He tells the story in a nice way.
I would say only thing, sometimes there's too much white in the gutters, but that's more of just a personal preference I don't like. But
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, this is the non-colored version, but other panels there's just literally lots of white everywhere.
Aldous is hurting my feelings. He says, to each their own, but let's not get crazy and praise John Romita Jr. I like John Romita Jr. too. So.
I wasn't. I was making the fun of. I was just making fun of the fact that the guy has a very heavy hand when it comes to the lead pencil.
Yeah, I mean that's undeniable, but it's another distinct style. I mean, some people don't like Miller's stuff; they find it very,
Yeah, I mean, art's subjective. I mean, the reason why I wanted to get Groken is I've seen a lot of his cover art, and I wanted to see what he could do with interiors. It's. To coin the crack packism yet again, he gave me a taste, and I wanted to see what he could do with a full dime bag, man. So,
I would say it's nice that like his interiors match what his covers were. He does the same high quality stuff either way. So that was nice to see. Now,
True.
if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine.
All right. Well,
I get it. There wasn't a lot of werewolves. There wasn't a lot of vampires, which have been running around like crazy in Comicsgate. So this was something that was a little bit more in the far left fantasy field. So it's not going to probably be everybody's cup of tea, but for a kid of the 80s, a kid that enjoys kind of when you merge two different genres together and you can kind of blend them well, and you can see that the merging of these two genres is a conflict in itself. I dug it.
Aldous points out Moonshine brings up a great point there. Phere, I believe.
He corrected it already, you asshole.
I was helping him with the correction. I was doing it in real time. He says the consistency was appreciated for sure. And Twitless says Rocafort did a good job portraying the alien quality of Kryptonian culture, so I'm not surprised that he brought that quality here. Interesting. Yeah, it's a very clean style. So I guess final thoughts. Anything unsaid and anything you wish to say. Moonshine, let's start with you.
I think the choice of storytelling is probably too bold than what he should have done. I appreciate it. I'm glad he did it. I almost feel like the mini comics are cheat sheets. I wish they didn't exist. I like the confusion and the problem solving you have to do on your own in this book. I'd probably say this surpasses Earthbound is the best comic I've read in the last few years, but I don't know if it's a good idea to key a comic book into my taste, but I think the art will carry him through, and if he simplifies the story, other people will enjoy the storytelling as well.
John, would you like to follow up? Any final thoughts or comments you wish to make that weren't said?
No, I think I've pretty much said everything. So,
okay. Steve, would you like to wrap it up for us?
Yeah, I think I got the whole immersive experience by getting the mini book and the book in itself. And yeah, the story is kind of fragmented, but there's a lot of world building going there. They're trying to introduce kind of both sides of this fight that'll eventually spill out in the future volumes of Groken. But I think it's kind of one of those things where you look at a weird narrative, and I was one of the few rare people that didn't necessarily get freaked out by the first season of The Witcher. and kind of caught on to what they were doing in that first season and figuring out it was out of context and out of time. And I get that, hey, if you want to probably get more people into the party, you're going to have to go with a more linear storyline that's a little bit more lean. And you're going to have to get this character. And I kind of dug that this character was kind of your dude. He was a fantasy version of the dude, and he was just there. And he's going to need to have some motivation to get involved into this conflict and have some personal skin in the game. So I think that's going to be interesting to see what that is in the future of Groken going down the line.
Is that Rocafort? That's his company name, at least.
Yep,
Yes,
that is Ken himself.
So if you'd like to direct any questions towards him, maybe he'd be willing to answer a few in the chat. The creators are always welcome to come on the show as well, Kenneth. I tried to reach out, and usually we like to have a little discussion afterwards, but it's totally up to the creators. I don't ever ask anybody to do anything that they're uncomfortable with doing. So again, you're more than welcome to come on and talk with us if you feel inclined to do so. But otherwise, yeah, if you have some questions, maybe you'd like to reference them to him in the chat and see if we can get a response. So Spirit Scar says, seems like an acquired taste. Not everyone digs Bakshi, Bode, or old school heavy metal magazine. That stuff is loved by many artists, though. So.
Yeah, I mean, like what he was saying earlier, a lot of the greats in cinema were inspired by heavy metal. You have your Ridley Scotts, who was pulled and dissected that apart to make what Aliens is today and have some connective tissue with H.R. Giger. But I get that this is some high-end fantasy stuff. I'm not saying like conceptually speaking, but I'm just getting that you're going to have to get out of your norm to enjoy it. And that's what I enjoyed about it, is that it didn't look like D&D. It didn't look like, okay, here's your starting guide, here's your characters. And a lot of the times it's just carbon copies with different fantasy stuff, and it's just different elements or conflicts. Like we've seen how bland Wheel of Time was on Amazon, besides just the story being bland. But
yeah, it's nice that, here's a Trolloc, but that's just an orc. What are you doing? All the characters, like I couldn't easily just classify them as this is an orc, this is a troll, this is a wolf man.
Yeah, he's trying to put his own spin on a fantasy world, which is what I dug. So it's like looking at something for the first time. So it made fun. It was fun reading page after page, seeing what he was going to do next, seeing his version of an elf, or seeing that giant monster that emerged out of the village. And just seeing those rogues, those kind of mercs just chilling at the bar going, nah, he didn't pay me to go do this, or I'm on my day off. Like, nah, they all had their different reasons why they weren't getting involved. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys get involved and how they're drawn into the conflict. It was just one of those bit pages where I'm like, okay, these guys are going to have a larger role, and they're probably going to be, hopefully, Groken's band of merry men or fellows,
Oh, I mean, I just like when there's a guy in the city watch who's fired all the missiles at the villain, and then he's like calmly asking, hey, can I retreat? This is a dangerous situation for me.
Oh, he says that the script for issue 2 is already done, so that's encouraging. Awesome.
And I gave you the link to the mailing list, which is actually up already for Groken too.
Yep, KSSS is spamming it in the chat as is needed.
I would ask, I assume the first book in the mini comics will be available on that campaign for those who missed it. That'd be the most relevant question.
And I'm curious if he's going to go in demand with the second campaign, or if he's going to do the mail-in model of closing things down once the initial funding period is over. But yeah, it was actually interesting how varied all the opinions were of the book. All of you, of course, liked the art, liked the design. Then there was, first, some people seemed to like the convoluted story structure, the puzzle
I think
aspect.
it's just me. I think
I did too, man. I like when something is just different, and I think that this isn't something where you can put like a square into a square hole or a circle into a circle. It was just something fun. It was something out of the box, and I get that it's good. People are going to react to it different ways, but it was a fun ride. You know, it was something that it was familiar in some degrees, but at some other ends, it was on the opposite side of the fence, and I just enjoyed the ride.
I just enjoy something that actually makes me sit up and actually think about a book. Like most of these books, it takes so little effort to understand the story. It's just I can't really get engaged with it.
Or it's procedural where you're like, okay, obviously this has been left on a cliffhanger, and I gotta wait for issue 2 of Super Soldier Fighting Force Team, where this is like, no, this is fantasy. This is high-end fantasy. I get to escape from a lot of the cape and cowl kind of crap. You know, this isn't like having litanies of werewolves and vampires in it, or an alien, or any of this kind of stuff. It was nice to just see a solid meat and potatoes fantasy story done by Ken with his own mind's eye.
But I mean, John's point is valid. It is a comic book, and there is a general way to tell a story for a reason. That's the way most people are going to want to read and understand the story. Because if you don't like a story and you're just thrown into it, why would you want to spend the effort? I can definitely see that point of view. And as a review, I got to say, well, that is a concern for some people. It's not just a personal concern for me. That's all.
Yeah, and I think Steve, you might have said that it also felt more like a prologue, that we hadn't really gotten to the core of the story yet. So the narrative being tethered there didn't seem yet to get, I guess, to the main crux of what the story was leading to. But
yeah, I mean, I honestly feel that this was just kind of the first act, not even the first act, just a prologue. Like, it's just introducing all the cast of characters and players, and we kind of got a general idea of why they want Groken, and we kind of got the general idea of why the demons and the science are doing what they're doing, and there's just creatures in their natural habitat and their natural existence that are ultimately going to probably have to band together for some reason or another to fight and be a resistance. So I'd rather let it happen organically versus seeing stuff like the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. Well, they're the resistance. Well, why are they resisting? Well, they're the resistance. Okay, let's go into that. Let's find some reasons why, other than, you know, the guys just are the baddies, you know?
I did drop the link, KSSS, and Kenneth is more than welcome to hop in.
No,
Sure.
Amit's asking you a question, well read.
Sorry, I was going to make a comment, but no, you knocked my train of thought off.
Good.
Amit says, is it better than Xenotype Dreamcatcher?
Nah.
No,
The dish.
fight me, John, fight me.
Well, Xenotype wasn't as good as
Australian
Earthbound,
style.
and I already said this was better than Earthbound, so.
I'm sorry, there wasn't enough children crying in the background when we were doing those Liam impersonations.
Right, to yell at, you know.
Yeah.
Quiet, I'm on the internet fighting.
Don't you understand that I'm here in my shill shack while other people have fudge huts?
Hey everybody, so I've got a really special guest. Please everyone welcome Kenneth Rocafort.
Hi, hello everyone.
Oh,
Okay, Kenneth.
it's wonderful to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sorry, I don't have a avatar right now.
No worries at all.
I honestly dig it more that way, Ken.
I like to picture you're sitting in complete darkness, and it's your camera.
Oh,
It's kind
I
of like
have
the
a
scene
nice-
when Batman goes to the Batcave to find his strength. That's what Ken does. He needs to absorb himself in nothingness so then he can create a tapestry for the rest of you.
Oh,
There you go.
Damn it. The illusion's
Oh.
gone, Ken.
yeah. Sorry, I'm here.
We are Rocafort. Very nice.
Yeah.
So I have one question, because the mini comics are volume 1 and reprint, so when did you publish these? Did you just like have these out at conventions, or did you
No,
sell
that-
these
that's-
somewhere?
I create those minis because copyrights in the trademark need to be one or more than two issues.
Hmm.
If you want to title have a trademark, it's not like only say and put the logo like a trademark. You need to buy legal stuff, and I did that prologue. It's for me, it's essential for the story. It's different style, like you mentioned about the writing, but it's more easy to start. Originally, the series started like the graphic novel, and those stories going to be inside later. That's why I don't going to reprint again the mini comics.
Oh, so when you reprint the main story, you're just going to put the mini comics in with it.
Will be kind of little clues inside and different pace, but that will be covered later. The information I give.
Cool.
Make sense? I
Makes
hope.
sense.
It's
Where did
almost
you-
kind of an exclusive for the people that got it on the
Yes.
initial ground floor.
Yes, and was published like a year and a half, more than a year and a half, yeah, in 2021.
So, where did you draw inspiration from to write this story? What were your references and source material?
I want to show something different at the moment for the. I decided to don't go superheroes.
Right.
I never said Groken is a good guy or a bad guy. He's the way you move around the world in this new fantasies era.
So kind of like what I was saying, he's the dude of the fantasy world. He's the Lebowski.
Yeah, yeah. You look, yes, exactly. You're going to look the world through his eye.
He also seems kind of like he's the thing, or at least his power is the thing everybody else wants. So everyone
Yeah.
is drawn to him.
He have a purpose.
And
Sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. And what was the so if the environment then is essentially the crux of the story, what kind of story did you want to tell through the experience of the environment and the characters in it?
Okay, first, it's not planet Earth. It's complete something different. Don't try to focus in mythology. Lost. Is completely go apart of those terminologies. It's a new mythology. They in this world don't going to mention religion that we know, tendency of politics, war, whatever. You need to be open mind because things not going to be logic like we know. Also, times is different.
And what were you hoping to explore further with the second issue, having established that?
Without say spoilers.
Without spoilers, of course.
Well, some character will have more exposure because we know Groken ending knockout.
Groken
Are
is
you in?
knocked out at the end of the first issue.
Yes.
Right.
That we didn't cover that, but yes, that's what happens at the end.
Yes. We have Enzo have he's going to say more things, and you will feel more comfortable in the story in the second issue.
So you'll
things going to be more clear. Its purpose,
cool.
I don't say too much things in the first one.
Sorry, John, you had a.
I just said cool. Then I look forward to the second issue.
Oh, thank you. That's good.
So
Then I was
you've already-
gonna ask
sorry.
Ken, like, just with Groken and himself, is kind of through the course of the story, are we gonna find out that he was kind of transmuted or he's augmented himself for the world at large?
Well, in the mini comics start with he like a kid. You saw his armor, his skeleton change because his growth is modified. The things is going to happen.
And then what were kind of your, obviously, what were your fantasy and science fiction influences with doing Groken? Were there certain footnotes or certain things that you took from various kind of like fantasy stories that came to mind?
Well, it's a lot of imagination. I have influence like everyone, but I try to do my style also.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just like, man, the footnotes that you were picking on, at least for me, that I was mentioning earlier, were stuff like just heavy metal in general.
Oh yes, I born with the heavy metal in my hands. That's normal. Yeah. And 77, yeah.
A little bit of Wizards, a little of that animated vibe from that. A little
Yeah,
dark crystal.
yeah, like obviously I'm a fan of those things. Magic is not exactly that happen. It's going to be weird stuff, but they don't use magic in this world. They're fantasy, mystical, weird stuff, but it's not exactly magic.
Okay.
And science, yeah. It's more nature
you,
in that weird stuff.
There's another creator I actually just realized this feels a lot like. Have you are you familiar with the French artist Merwan? Merwan?
What title he drew? All right.
Aster of Pan, or he did False Guard. Is another one.
Okay, I have a
Beautiful stuff.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I like a lot of European comics. Juan Jimenez, Meta Barons.
Yeah, I love Meta Barons.
Yeah, that's really a nice graphic novel. You want to read something out of superheroes or European stuff.
Yeah, you definitely have that style going for you, for sure.
Yeah. I have a lot of influence. I not try to imitate, but yes, the color palette and different things that are reflected in my style.
Mm.
No matter they are more muddy, I like so brilliant color between. But yeah, I can't deny.
I love your color palette. That is something we didn't discuss too much, I guess, but it's just a lot of current American comics are very just dark in the color palettes, and just everything kind of saturates and bleeds together. Your colors very much stand out, and they're very unique choices.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to do a little more scape of the we have now in publishing out of superhero stuff.
Cool.
Could I ask you a little bit about your experience with crowdfunding and how you found being in Comicsgate and how that's been different for you in the work that you've done versus how it was for you in the mainstream? Have you found it freeing, and are you liberated, or do you still feel like there are some constraints that you're still conscious of?
Okay, I will try to don't go to the negative stuff in the industry. I always say this is my plan A, and I was living with my plan B is drawing for other. Plan A is drawing for me, do my own stuff. The time things change, not in the good way. Now I feel more comfortable in the situation that pushed me to do that. Yes, I'm here in CG, drawing, doing my stuff, writing all the stuff. Yes, all I control. I'm happy for that.
What aspects do you feel like you've been able to?
Well, I try to give some pitch about when I was in other companies. Like artists, they don't listen too much the ideas. And no matter how it's a good idea, but we don't want you like a writer. Yes, I don't want to explain too much because they're going to enter to other topics.
Sure. No, I understand.
Yeah.
I just mean with this project.
Okay.
What things were you happy that you were able to do now that you're actually doing it for yourself? And,
Yes. Okay. I have the plot for more than 7 issues. This is not a trilogy story. It's going to be long. I hope to have the time to do all, and also I have other stories, other titles I want to bring. Yes, I'm here not for a short time.
oh, that's good to know. Have you thought about collaborations? Are there any other people that you wanted to
I
work
try
with?
to don't do collaborations. It's not easy to say no, but it's important to stay doing my stuff.
Right.
Maybe you're going to saw less covers, less collaborations, because if I'm here to don't draw for other people, why I need to draw for other people here? Make sense?
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What other kind of stories were you hoping to tell with the other books that you wanted to put out?
I have a really sci-fi one. It's like a troopers stuff, going to other place to conquer. This is one. I have different. At the time, maybe next year I do an interruption of Groken. I give a different thing between to refresh and continue Groken.
Did you have a plan of how many issues you'd like to do per year?
Less one, at least.
At least one.
Yeah.
Yes. That would
Minimum.
be
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Always.
No. Also, I have a lot of story for do anthologies.
Right.
A lot of short stories.
Well, that would be interesting. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
I thinking to do an anthology book, different kind of stories, and I draw a different style depending the story, and finish it that way, like a 60 pages book with different stories inside.
Have you thought about live streaming as a way for promoting your books? Is that something that you? would be
I'm really
pursuing?
bad. Like you listen to me. I'm not a good speaker.
No.
That
Not
would
at
be super boring.
all. No, we're boring here. This is the show known for boredom.
Speak for yourself, Walred.
Yeah. You doing a competition with me? No, I
Yeah.
won.
I don't know. Moonshine and I seem to be.
Yes, I like draw, but drawing pool in the live streaming is like a. I sometimes I do like a really time lapse, 30 seconds to show something I finished, but nothing serious like a page,
Right.
only for fun.
That's a good way to at least still have some connection with the audience, and they can see what you're doing and be able to talk to you.
I recognize that, but it's difficult for me. It's not that easy. I prefer work more focused in right. I'm doing all writing, color, drawing. It's not easy. Consuming. I don't delegate part of my work, only the printing area. People say, "Oh, others only give one comic, but they only drawing, or they only writing."
You're doing it all, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And I take it that you're also fulfilling your campaigns as well.
Yes, my sister helped me that part, but I finished in 1 week.
Sorry, I have to mute occasionally. I've got a little bit of a draft behind me.
The chat
Sounds
loves
like you
it,
got like a
Red.
haunted evil behind you.
Well, Red's rabbit burrow is definitely having some howling winds tonight. It's almost like a little like Sleepy Hollow vibe, man.
Yeah, the farmers are trying to gas me out of the burrow.
I told him at the beginning of the stream it was loud, but he didn't care. So
Well,
blame him.
it's not that I don't care. I just can't do anything about it, unfortunately.
I mean, you have a burrow. It's not like Aldous. He has a whole farm, and he has a barn, and then like myself, I have this secluded, nice little one-bedroom apartment in lovely Irvine, California. It's no Corona Del Mar, John.
Oh wait, Linkovich has it. It's the spirit of Testify visiting you, well read.
Oh, well, that's why it's so loud and obnoxious, clearly. So,
I was going to ask too, Ken, with the world reopening, are you looking forward to kind of seeing people's reactions? I know that your first kind of outing is that Ontario Comic-Con Revolution. Are you looking forward to kind of putting Groken out to kind of the general public, aside from CG and crowdfunding, and seeing what their reaction is?
Well, I'm going to bring copies, and the Ontario Convention, they announced I will bring Groken to the public, and I'm happy for that. They have done any problem with CG.
Should I drive all the way down there?
Where are you?
I'm in Danville.
Denver. I'm in Tracy, California.
Yeah, you're about 30 minutes from me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He found out that you were going, Ken. So
I know. Now I'm like,
being tempted with a good time.
Well, so sometimes I go to the local comic shop,
which one?
in Livermore.
Oh, the fantasy books and games.
Yes.
I love it there. Yeah, nice guy.
Yeah, you tell me when you go to be this area, and can go there.
Well, let's do it. That sounds fun.
Yeah, why not?
Cool.
yeah, you guys should grab coffee and talk about Comicsgate and all the fun we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or whatever store you more.
Spirits Guard thinks I should go to Ontario too. I know. And OC, if Steve and I do a stream down there, that'd be really nice. We'd have a lot of fun. I gotta ask my wife though.
Yeah, man. I mean, hell, that's my birthday weekend. So what better way than geeking out and getting to hang out? And I would say it's probably a little bit smaller than WonderCon, but it still has a vibe to itself, which is what's nice about the Ontario Comic-Con Revolution show.
Nice. Did you do Stockton Con, Ken?
I did like 2 years ago, but I go like a fan.
Okay. Yeah, I do too. I don't like setting up a table or anything. It's fun though.
Yeah, exactly.
What, you guys get to be fans and actually experience the con for yourselves?
I don't like setting up table. I really dislike setting up a table at a con. Like it's like I sit there all day, and it's just like I just want to walk around and do what I want to do, you know?
Yes. Well, when I go like a artist, like a guest, I all the day in the chair, the table, all the stuff. But if not, I go like a fan, and don't ask me to go to the table. I can sign if someone's told me, "Hey, I have you coming." Chill, I sign it and take time, talk, but like a fan, it's fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
Are there any series that you collect actively, Kenneth?
Right now,
Yeah.
I'm reading different stuff, but I stopped like a month ago with the Amazon's thing. Like I changed all the all the comics, the comicsology. But
Right.
I don't buy too much right now. But yes, I'm reading the CG stuff and other things I download. And all comics. I have a lot of trade paperback.
Oh, cool. What are your favorite series? Ones that you like to read several times over?
All ones. The Force World, Jack Kirby.
Oh, good stuff. I have the absolutes, you know, the big oversized ones.
Oh yeah. Me too.
Nice.
Also fun. I like his stuff. Kamandi, one of my favorite characters. I also did a pitch of Kamandi. Maybe I bring to the like a CG book, my version. Change a lot, but will be fun.
That'd be interesting.
Spirit Scar has a question. He asks,
Yep.
were you influenced by the 70s underground comic book artist Vaughn Bode at all in writing and art? And if so, which characters?
Well, I started in comics. I didn't born. I'm 77. But, okay, not exactly that writer, but my dad was working in the university when I was a kid and when I grew, and was a lot of students of different area of the world, and they bring comics and they bring magazines, and that was my first influence. It's me not buying the comic. They only share, and just that. I don't know if I answered the question, but I have a lot of influence in different part of the world
Yeah,
at really young age.
it could be I mispronounced the name. It's Vaughn Bode.
The-
Yeah,
I need to do the search.
Aldous is scolding me in the chat that I got that wrong.
He's from two specific questions.
Yeah, it is very specific. It's a 70s underground comic book artist. It's probably not very common, not very known. Spirit Scar maybe is just finding your style similar.
Maybe I know in visual, but at the moment I don't recognize the name. I'm sorry for that.
Right. I can take a quick look. So let's see. Vaughn Bode comic.
An influence can work different because I can have influence, but I don't try to emulate the art or the style of writing. But when you read something, no matter if it's good or bad, you are influenced of that material because you know what do or what don't do.
Vic has a very. After you get through this, he has a question he wants asked.
I know.
Yes. So Cheech Wizard is a
Yes,
parent.
I know. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it too.
Yeah. When you see it, it's familiar. But it's been a while, definitely.
Yes, I have comics of him.
Oh. Well, I hope that answered your question, Spirit Scar.
Yep, that's definitely the guy,
Yeah.
the mind behind Wizards. So
Yes.
Vic asks, ask him please, if he ever seen the movie Wizards, 1977, with now I can't talk. Robot Piacia and elves.
I think I saw it, but I'm not sure.
People are very curious about your
Yes.
influences.
no, it's just the
Yes.
vibes. Like when I was reading that book, Ken, it reminded me a lot of kind of that Wizards feel where there's some conflicts
I saw
between
it.
natural and magic, you know, or
Yes,
magic
I-
and science.
Yes, well, I'm that generation because when you are a kid, you saw your access to the thing of your dad or your uncle, friends on the family. Yes, I saw, and my first movie also I watched in theater was Star Wars, The New Hope. I was only 9th month. Oh, super kid. And I go out doing sound like R2D2 and movie like a C-3PO. It really influenced.
Sure.
Well, now we know your favorite Star Wars characters, Ken.
Yeah,
Wasn't Chewie.
no. I really bad doing the sound of Chewbacca. I never, it's difficult for me.
That kind of makes sense, the way you kind of like your characters going back and forth in a dry manner. That's C3PO style as well. That makes sense.
Yeah. About my style in writing Groken, I try something different, like my usual. I know you never read too much about my writing, but it's jumping and different times, and the narrative start with Enzo and Paulino Luca. This is going to continue through the issues. That's kind of style. It's only for format. Do the format in the first issue, like you understand what happened in the next.
Okay, so the second issue is kind of going to explain kind of the sequencing that happened in the first.
The jail situation is going to continue, and he's going to elaborate some more about what happened in this world.
The Enzo, the
Yes.
prisoner, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so is you can see it's similar, like a Star Wars is only C-3PO and R2-D2 talking.
Yeah, because they're essentially explaining it to you through a dialogue with each other. Because obviously, R2-D2 was saying nothing, so C-3PO is explaining things.
Yes,
by using that kind of narrative structure.
And in Metabaron also, there are two droids that they talk, and you enter to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of similar, but in this way, Enzo also is one of the characters in the mini comics.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I have a hunch who he is in the mini comics, but
yeah,
I won't spoil it.
Yeah, time passed. People is more. Groken was a kid. Now he's not a kid.
Yes.
But I didn't say name, but they referenced like the old.
Yeah.
The old guy, yeah, and I can say the same.
That was what I was assuming. I didn't want to spoil it.
Yes, it's important assuming things in that kind of writing.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to direct everything. I'd be super obvious. Every idea I want to expose.
I mean, I think it's fine letting the reader take the clues and put them together and find the answer without just directly saying, this guy is this guy. Didn't you know that?
And I want people to create theories, and maybe it's not exactly. I never going to say yes or no at the beginning, but at the end, you're going to reveal all the things that are tied together. It's like a cone. You have a lot of elements, but at the end, all going to be in one bigger whole to form something.
Yeah, I mean, I like storytelling that does that. It's not for everyone, but I really
I know that it's not something people know how to understand at the beginning, but also I don't want to be so simple in my writing. Like other people try to, it's not all the way to understand. It's only one line. No, I want to be more flexible about people free things or expect the end different way.
Vanessa is telling you how to sell your book, though.
Oh, what'd she say? My tutor daughter?
She says, just remember, this is the pitch for Groken. It's Groken, go get it.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't give any spoiler at the moment.
It's great.
You don't receive any spoiler for the second.
Good. I want to be pleasantly surprised.
I hope so. And yeah.
All right.
Well,
I'm falling asleep, my friends. I'm going to...
that's a gift for my voice, right?
I think it's not just that. It's not you, Ken. We got the dulcet tones of Moonshine here and Well Read. They've even taken my crack pack animated freakazoid body.
You got the nice like ghosts in the background there.
Yeah, a little white noise. It doesn't help.
John has been streaming for almost 8 hours today.
I've done 8 hours. It's a lot. I'm
Well,
burnt
I want
out.
to say thank you to each one here in the panel and also in the chat. I love the comments.
Well, man,
Well,
it's
Thank
easy
you.
nice to meet you,
to,
Ken.
yeah,
Nice to meet you.
it's a blast, man. You are a class act, and the fact that people can reach out to you and you're transparent about your book and your customer service is something exceptional. I mean, those are kind of the tent poles of Comicsgate, and to see that you're living up to it, you're walking the walk, you're talking the talk, and getting that chance to catch up on it because it didn't go into demand, but just knowing that you're a man of your word and you remembered people down the line and still wanted to get the book in people's hands, and that you're active in the community and you appreciate even kind of the goofy little band of misfits that I'm associated with on the side of the crack pack, dude. It talks a lot about your character.
No, thank you to you. Really, I appreciate all those people in CG and outside CG that support all my projects, no matter where I am. Yeah, and for the
It's
streaming.
easy to do with good
Yeah.
people, man. So it's always great to see somebody just putting their best foot forward. And that's what I enjoyed about Groken. It was a fun fantasy romp that was different than the stuff that's on the shelf. It didn't feel like a procedural Dungeons and Dragons kind of quest. It felt like it was a fun ride. I get where a lot of people the narrative kind of takes them here, there, and everywhere, but I'm a kid at ADD, so the narrative totally clicked for me,
Yeah. And only I can say I'm here for a long time.
So we're gonna get more Groken.
Yes.
I also say it was impressive that you launched it in less than a year afterwards. You've already shipped it. That's pretty impressive for a first effort to get it done that quickly with that high quality art.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll try to do the same next time.
Thank you very much for being here and being part of CG, and making these amazing comics for us to read and discuss afterwards. It's really a pleasure. So, and
It's
I'm
my
grateful.
pleasure. I'm really proud to be with you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm grateful you're, like as OC said, that you're willing to come on smaller channels like this one and speak with us a little bit. That's really really a treat for us, and we're honored when you're able to do that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Great to have you here. I guess with that, if you wanted to hang out, Kenneth, it's up to you. Otherwise, we could wrap up. I know Steve mentioned he might have to go, and I don't know how Moonshine's schedule is. I usually try to go for at least 2 hours, so there's about 12 minutes left, and
Okay.
I could talk about some current events. See if there's anything that interests you in recent pop culture.
I do gotta dip out. Unfortunately, I do got a 9 to 5, fellas. So, but Ken, it was a pleasure. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you
And
for the
know
invitation.
that you got a fan for life, bud. And I look forward to actually shaking your hand in Ontario and thanking you for being a rad dude.
See you there.
All right, good night, gentlemen. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you, Steve. It's
Good night.
amazing having you here. Good
Take
night.
care, fellas.
And good night. Spirit Scar is giving a compliment to Steve.
Yep, he says, did a great job, guest reviewer, an example of youthful enthusiasm.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, I like all the Crackback guys.
Yes,
They're great peoples, and great to have them in CG. So
no doubt.
very open, very enthusiastic, great promoters.
Completely opposite of well-read.
I try to be, I try to be what I am. So here, one of the things that I found interesting that happened recently is some reviews started to come out for Morbius. Do you know about that character, Kenneth?
Yes.
Right. So apparently, they're calling the new movie one of the worst Marvel films of all time.
I saw they only give like a 16%. That's really
This
sad.
is a Sony project, right?
Well, I thought they hybridized it, didn't they? Like they also did that with the Spider-Man movies. Those were Sony projects, but they had
Yeah.
more Marvel work on them too. So, the Jared Leto character is less than impressive for a lot of people. And I'm not sure if there were a lot of people who were interested in this project, though, to begin with. Seems kind of like a side throwaway character, not really something that you would spotlight anyway.
Yeah, I mean, only the most hardcore Spider-Man fans probably know who Morbius is. So
Yes, like me, the first time I know about the character was collecting the Marvel Universe card, long time ago
I
when I was a
mean,
kid.
Spider-Man was one of my favorites, so I've known who he is, but even I would say, hey, it would take me like 5 seconds, like, oh yeah, that guy.
Right. Well, and I don't know if this is another case, though, of the critics hating, because here you see that it's kind of out of balance. The audience score is 69%, the critic score is 17.
I mean, but 69% is pretty bad for an audience
Yes.
usually.
Is it?
Yeah, usually the audience for a superhero movie will be 90 plus. So
All right. Well, it doesn't bode well. Unfortunately, there's not much else out in the theaters this weekend, so
did it
not-
just launch last night, or
I think it opened, yeah, today.
okay? So the audience reviews are probably very few people at that anyway. Then, so it's only the hardcore would have seen it the first night. So
Well, people are receptive though to Spider-Man spin-offs. Like Venom is kind of a popular franchise.
yeah, but Venom's popular. And I don't think Spider-Man's in this movie, so people might not even know it's Spider-Man related, like except for like graffiti of Spider-Man in the background.
Yeah, he's in the movie. See, there he is. He's on the wall.
Yeah,
KS just says it's the Jared Leto effect.
Yeah. That count in the wall? I don't know.
I think I agree with that. Like there does seem to be something about Jared Leto and like these big properties, and his presence in them seems to
Wow, now
forebode
it's
failure.
oh, there it goes. Maybe they should use that sound effect in the movie. That might
Yeah.
improve it.
I like it. I can use for Groken.
Yeah, I would like an audio version of the book.
Next
Ollie
trailer.
I want to inform everybody that I'm streaming from within a wind tunnel in a tornado, so I'm actually in the twister. Like
Sounds more like a creepy ancient haunted mansion.
it's like I'm going to the wizard, going to Oz, and I'm going to see the wizard. So I'm basically
And the
Dorothy.
cow. Woo.
Yeah, exactly. There's a cow flying by. Moo.
Good night, Aldous. We've been doing a lot of work in chat, asking good questions.
Yeah, it's great having you here, Aldous. Thank you a lot. You're helping quite a bit with the show, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so Jared Leto, when he's the Joker, the movies are not good. When he was in Blade Runner, suddenly that highly anticipated sequel didn't perform to expectations, and now he's in the MCU and things are tanking. So there does seem to be a Jared Leto curse.
Spirit Scar wants to hop in. I think you dropped the link at some point.
I did, yeah. Spirit Scar is welcome, of course. It's great to have him on. So,
But sometimes expectation of movie they change. Maybe first year when it's out, the movie people don't like, and next year people say, "Ah, you remember the movie?" And it's a hit in the fans only. I know Mobius is a character like is try to be a good but kill people, and Spider-Man interact with fighting with him, but only focusing him is the difficult part. I need to watch the movie, to say if I like it or not.
Well, the problem with the character is it's like, well, it's a vampire, but it's science related. But really, this character is already the Lizard, who's a much more popular Spider-Man villain.
True.
I mean, he's not really that different from the Lizard in the end when you think about it. So,
But it's more in the street.
Yeah, I guess. I guess he can pass in public, I guess, to use a turn of phrase, whereas the lizard obviously is a lizard, so he can't. So you can like play off the dynamics of him interacting with people while being this creature. But
Well, the thing is going to present like a bad character, like a villain, or like a superhero.
yeah,
I think kind of like an anti-hero. He's bad, but only two bad people, kind of like Venom.
Okay.
well, I thought it's more of that he is a very good person. It's just because he's transformed into this, he has his urges that he has that overcome his ability to restrain himself, kind of thing.
Right. But on who does he act those urges out?
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna like try to like when he can't stop himself, he's gonna try to like choose the worst people too. But yeah,
Right.
The first trailer looked nice. The first trailer I saw time ago. I didn't saw the new one.
I don't think they've really added a whole lot. I think there was
It's still
Couple
the
of-
same.
mostly the same. Yeah, they didn't have a lot of interesting new scenes.
that quote is funny. Right there, you have on screen.
Which one?
Right there, right there in the first paragraph.
Okay, headlining his review, much like its bloodthirsty hero, Morbius loses the battle against sucking. Yeah, that's
I
that's
bet
pretty clever.
Twitless even like that one.
I'm sure Twitless wrote it.
Oh, Twitless, did you write this article?
So exactly, Venom but with vampires.
No, no. I mean,
Is he-
Venom doesn't have any really morality. That's the thing. That's why he is the anti-hero.
Well, but neither does Morbius once he's transformed. He's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I understand the character to be, but maybe I'm wrong.
It almost looks like they're using fake night too, which is always a no-no in filmmaking. Don't do that.
Well, yeah.
Where it's daylight and you just change the color palette to make it look like night. That's almost looks like crap.
Well, I'm sure I'm sure someone can explain it to us. We have an expert in the back. Please welcome Spirits Car.
Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Good to meet you, Ken.
Nice to meet you, Spirit. Scar.
That's not my Christian name. That's
Okay.
so. Are you guys talking about the Morbius movie, or
Yeah.
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 So do you think it looks like they're using fake night? That's what it seems like from what I've seen.
fake what?
Fake, where you shoot in daylight and you just in post production you make it dark.
Oh, interesting. I don't know. I haven't seen enough footage of it to guess that, but that'd be really cheapy, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think of like basing a whole film around that character? Does he have enough of a, personality or an arc to really warrant an entire film?
Well, I know nobody thought a Blade movie would have worked, right? But I mean, the people like those movies still, I think anything can work, whether or not this film will actually work. I mean, who knows? But I mean, it's a vampire story. Why not? You can make that into something.
Blade had Wesley Snipes, and this has Jared Leto.
I mean, it might just be a whole bunch of CGI. That's what it could be too. I mean, is that real makeup there, or is that just his face and they CGI'd it?
Yeah, that looks like some CG elements. I mean, Jared Leto's he can be good in the right thing. I mean, he's a good actor. He's in Fight Club. He's been in a ton of cool stuff. But it's about whoever wrote this movie and what their vision for it was.
Who is the director on this?
I have no idea.
No one.
Yeah.
That's probably a bad. Oh wow.
Metacritic, yeah, 16 negative.
That looks pretty bad.
Did you see the director of Hellboy recently came out recently? He was on some YouTuber show, and he basically was passing the buck and like blaming the studio for like why the movie sucked, and he was saying like I hadn't done a movie in Hollywood in so many years, and they offered me this, but he was saying he didn't have any say over the script, and that he wanted to do practical effects, but they wouldn't let him, and put in all the CG stuff afterwards, and he's basically abandoning all like any kind of responsibility for what that last Hellboy movie was, and I think that's kind of a convenient scapegoat to always just blame the studio, and everyone always just accepts that. But you still kind of got to fight for, something. You got to challenge the studio executives to, like, if you're whatever your idea, your vision is.
I will say
Yeah.
this movie is essentially given all the critics to get all their puns out in one fell swoop.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them
And even
here.
diehard fans are apt to feel completely drained by it all.
Yeah, they're not trying too hard.
No.
I guess this is the audience here after watching this film.
72. Not bad.
It will be a more horror story, or is only like a kind of superhero in bad shape?
Well, I think, yeah, he's sick, and then he takes this injection to try to recover. Right?
Yes, but you think it's going to be a movie
Like
more like a horror?
Like, is he
Terror.
killing people? And is he-
Yes.
I don't know what it's rated, and if they really go that far. Honestly, from what I saw in the trailer, it seemed like they were trying to still keep it kind of light and comedic, even though his appearance is horrific. So it's a very strange mixture.
Yeah, he can be more ugly. Like you remember Suspicious, the Bloodstone movies?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, so it is a Sony film.
Yes, it's like in the comics it looked like that way, super ugly the face.
Right.
I think they try to be a little not too bad in the face.
They're trying to Twilight him up a little bit. Huh?
Yes, that's my point.
Vanessa says it's a typical first MC movie by Sony.
So she's the one that saw it. Maybe she's the one who wrote the reviews.
I'm guessing this is in the same universe with Venom. I wonder if
Yeah.
any actors from that are going to be in this. Or
Well,
I
I thought.
yeah.
Well, I thought the Easter egg was at the end of one of the Spider-Man movies. He said hi to Vulture. Remember that?
what,
short-
Michael Keaton?
Yeah. They had them interact.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they want to tie all this stuff together. And
It's Daniel Espinosa directed it, according to Chaos.
I don't know if the directors matter though for the MCU movies. Like, a lot of them are unknowns, aren't they?
yeah, well, they got a formula, so they don't want to risk that formula being messed with.
Yeah. They usually get the smaller directors onto the movies.
Yeah,
Oh,
directors who don't have egos who are going to like demand things. They just want directors who will just be shut up and do what they're told.
Well, like what happened with the Ant-Man director, like when he wanted to have some control over it, he didn't want it to tie into the larger MCU, so they got rid of him. I forget his
Oh.
name.
Oh, Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright, yeah, wrote it and basically structured the entire story, and yeah, they got rid of him the minute they wanted to inject some Easter eggs or some connections to other MCU films, and he didn't want those. So
It does seem like they get small time directors who, will just do what they're told and not challenge the producers in any meaningful way. So
yeah.
Do you like when comics are traduced in movies, or you prefer only stay like comics?
That's a good question. I don't feel like they ever translate the comic fully to film. Most of the time they try to reinvent it in some manner so that it's more palatable as a movie and make it less like a comic. So
I would say that the newer Spider-Mans are probably the closest thing to like reading a comic, because they're except for the most recent, it's generally like small scale conflicts with just the villain of the week type of thing.
Yeah, I don't have problem. It's a good episode. Or a
you
good
got to use
issue.
the strengths of like movie medium, right? And everything that has to offer. I mean, there's some great comic book adaptations out there, like Flash Gordon and Barbarella and Danger Diabolic. You know, even some totally outside the Marvel DC stuff. Those are fun movies that some people may not even know those are based on comics.
Well, I think the directors that took it to the extreme, they tried to make literal translations of comics, were Ang Lee's Hulk and Sin City. Where,
Sin City's great. I mean, that
yeah,
works very well.
Thank you. You don't mention Dick Tracy. Thank you.
Oh, I like
Oh,
Dick
yeah.
Tracy.
No, I don't like it.
I mean,
I
the
like-
color palette was fun
No.
with that movie.
Yeah,
I don't know.
the great characters, all the great actors
Yeah.
like Al Pacino,
Al Pacino,
and Dustin
yeah.
Hoffman.
Yeah,
I
but
like
easy
it's
can be
fun.
better.
It's like a kids movie though, but
Yeah.
I liked Ang Lee's Hulk. Like, I don't know why that got panned as hard as it did. I thought it was interesting.
It's because people wanted it to be something and it wasn't. That's why they
Yeah,
couldn't accept it as it was. That's what it was.
I like seeing the whole cop around the desert. But when he tried to do the panel thing like on the movie screen, like I didn't think that
Oh.
really worked quite as well.
no.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Or
But
X-Men First Class kind of did that better, where it was kind of moving and they kind of used it as transitions.
Right.
I mean,
mean, it's-
if you really want it to be a comic, like you make it animated, like that Spider-Man movie was Miles Morales one of that.
Morales.
They chose to make it, animated for that reason, so it could be more like a comic.
Ken, where do you come down on the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies from 1990?
The first one is the best for me.
I think that's great. Yeah, it's a good happy medium between the cartoon series and the comic book. I think they found the
Yeah.
perfect balance between those two.
Yes, and also you notice the film, they are more dark, the shadows more drastic than the other movies they make.
Mhm.
It's really the tone of the comic, no matter if they're more cartoony.
Yeah, it's still kind of
uh,
gritty.
Yeah, I accept they make movies of comics because they make more accessible the idea. Because comic book artists is present ideas the more easy way to public,
Mhm.
but you can. The comic book right now is not extend too much to the whole public you want. Sometimes movies, it's more easy to people
Yeah.
to watch.
It's people just generally don't
Yeah.
read comics anymore, so
Yeah.
it's not an experience they want or even know they would like. So
But I love the medium of comics.
It does seem like you have a lot of freedom in comics to like try things out, and sometimes
Yes.
they work and sometimes they fail, but then like sometimes you really strike gold, and a lot of directors will kind of use the things that work in comics and bring it to movies. Like literally Scott and Blade Runner said he drew a lot from Heavy Metal Magazine and all that, and Mobius work.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's manga is picking up, so there's obviously some desire to read, art with words, I guess.
Well, you can really get invested in that long serial format.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think people need to also appreciate more the comics because it's the pure material, the root of all the ideas. Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean that's what I always felt comics were, and like when the modern creators describe it as being punk, I always feel like they're talking about comics earlier, and it was a laboratory of ideas. That's where you got to experiment with all this.
Well, I mean, essentially, it was the old kind of pulp fiction, but printing got good enough that they could, rather than just write words, it's like, oh, here's pictures, because the kids were like that even better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of the funny pages.
Yeah.
And they're making a movie out of the Inkill that director Taika Waititi.
Oh, really?
Are you looking forward to that, Ken?
Yes, I didn't know. You mentioned now. I said the Incal. Wow,
Yeah.
impressive.
And Jodorowsky has given it his blessing too. He said in the past like he would have like been on board for something like that.
Yes,
He's like,
I tried to contact him, Jodorowsky. I only can. I talked with his son.
awesome.
Well, he told me it's not that kind of accessible. I said okay, next time.
No, I mean, I like him as a director too. So I mean, I guess some people don't like what he did, but I think he at least brings energy to a movie.
Yeah,
his
he's
movies-
definitely got an interesting vision. It's just
I-
his personality offline is kind of off-putting, I think.
Well, I can tell you, Guillermo del Toro have Groken comic in his hand.
Oh,
Mm.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It
What
seems
was
like
your-
Groken is the comic to have.
Yeah.
What was your
Did
favorite?
you take Broken Spirit Scar?
Put me on the spot.
Yes.
The second campaign, I'll be picking.
Okay. So you were impressed with what you
Honestly,
saw.
I didn't really hear much about this. I guess it was me just in the right places. But after your excellent program tonight, I'm convinced with the second campaign to pick it up.
I think
I hope-
that'll be
thank
a
you.
lot of people. I think that there's a lot of good word of mouth, even if some people are like, well, I don't know about the story, but the art's amazing. That's like the worst I've heard of a review.
Well, I like this. Sounds like the story is cool. I like the kind of like fusion of science and magic and the kind of offbeat, kind of more adult kind of fantasy stuff. That's what I was asking about, like Von Bodie's, because he would do those kinds of weird, kind of more adult fantasy stories and
I mean,
people referencing heavy metal and all that.
I mean, personally, I like everything about the story. The setup, I like the dialogue, the interaction of the characters. I'm impressed how well you can do humor, because that's the hardest thing to do in another language, and you pull that off very well. So
Yes. People told about the humor. I'm happy for that. People understand. Yes. I don't have, but I know about writing, but in Spanish. But in English, I try to do my best. The dialogue have words like that. They're obsolete right now, but it's part of the world.
okay,
Some terms, some ideas I want to present, they are more deep in the concept of the root of that word. Yes, also you notice more than in the Minis comic. They use some weird words, but they are correct.
Ken, did you do something on Artabear's Chrono Mechanics? I think I
Chrono
remember
Mechanics.
hearing your name with that somewhere. Or
I did for Archiver a black and white cover.
all right, one of the covers. Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
I,
That's up right now.
I,
Which character was it? Was it the artist? Is that right? Caravaggio, was that the one you do? I don't remember.
I don't remember also. I know I did like the cover was presented a year later. I did that really early. That cover.
He held it close to his vest, I guess.
Yeah.
Vic wants to know the movie you guys were talking about.
Incal.
Lincoln.
Yeah, it's based on a graphic novel, really classic comic book out of Europe by Jodorowsky and Mobius.
The funny thing, he's from Chile. He's not European.
Mhm.
You saw the movie The Holy Mountain?
Yes, yeah.
And
My favorite
El
of his,
Topo?
though, is Santa Sangre. But yeah, and I've seen El Topo.
I like El Topo.
Yeah, that's my favorite too. El Topo.
I think Santa Sangre is the most like skilled in like in storytelling and
Yes.
like tight as a film. And it's still with the weirdness and surreal. That's all still there, but still works as a cohesive story. So I like that.
The Topo, I like the line. He'd say you need to search the desert, but it's going to spiral to check all the desert. That was really nice.
Yeah, there's some amazing like just photography and cinematography just out in the desert, sort of wandering around.
Yes.
It's
Fantastic.
like a like a very what do you call it, like a Buddhist Western or something.
Yeah. Yes, he's the king of the midnight movies.
Yeah, that was the first midnight movie, El Topo.
Mhm.
Did you see his newer films like Endless Poetry?
No,
or Dance of Reality. They're like autobiographical.
I need
And
to do a catch up of all those things he did now recently.
yeah, he just made these in the last few years. Dance of Reality is about him as a child, like in Chile, and this poetry is him as like a teenager, early 20s. His son plays his father in those movies too. So
Yeah. His son is the one in the top of in the horse with him.
the
He's
little
the
boy,
director. Yeah. All movies.
and his son is also in Santa Sangre too. That's the main character in that. For both of them, for an adult and a child, it's both. He's always putting his kids in.
Yeah. All
It
the
works.
time. It's in the family. No need to recruit more actors. Yes, all movies, all movies.
I mean, Inkle, that'll be wild to see as a movie. I mean, I can't imagine how audiences are going to react to that.
I I think it would be difficult to understand at the beginning because you know how he's writing.
Yeah, it's just one crazy thing,
It's
right?
a running, yeah,
One after another, after another.
yeah.
Is Taika Waititi the right director, though, to be doing that project?
I think he can be. He's like Thor Ragnarok visually, you know. I think all the crazy stuff he had going on there, and even had like the kind of Kirby style art in Thor Ragnarok. So if he's got the story in the comic book there ready, like laid out for him.
But that comic have two different artists, right? Or was only Mobius at the beginning?
I think the first like arc of it, I think, was Mobius, and then like later they did other Inkle stories and had other artists. But yeah, I think the first one that everyone knows is Mobius all the way.
Yeah. Well, we need to see which the color palette, because I know they have two different color palettes of the comic. Was a
Like,
revision years ago that changed a lot of things, and the original. I hope they stay in the original.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They reprinted it.
Yep.
I know What We Do in the Shadows. Like that's one of the funniest comedies of the last few years. That vampire mockumentary that Waititi made.
The Shadow?
What We Do in the Shadows. It's
okay.
Taika Waititi.
I was thinking about the Shadow. The Shadow knows.
Oh, the Alex Baldwin movie.
yes, I know. You were talking about that. The Shadow. Oh, what? No, but the funny thing, I listened the radio show. I like the radio show, the old one.
Yeah, you can find them all on YouTube. There's a ton of old like radio plays and broadcasts.
Yeah. The horror movie, yes, horror radio. I listen to those things.
Is it?
I think Batman was kind of pretty much like a knockoff of The Shadow, right?
Yes, pure knockoff.
That's the TV show. Waititi did the movie. That's the TV series based on the movie, though.
Okay.
The movie's very funny, man. It's got one of the guys from Flight of the Conchords in there, and it's just absurd, you know. So yeah, I think Inkle has a certain humor about it too, you know, which I think Waititi is a good fit for.
Yeah, but remember, it's not for kids. That movie. I think the Inkle is going to translate like movie.
It's got to be rated R.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah, say one of the vampires. It's like their roommates living in a flat. You know, it's about them like kind of like an odd couple with the four of these guys. The oldest vampires, like this Nosferatu-looking creature.
I haven't seen a lot of his movies, I have to admit. The only one I know of is the one where it's got a Hitler in it and a bunny rabbit or something. So.
Oh yeah, that was that JoJo's movie.
Yeah,
I like it because it has a rabbit in it.
That's right. I identify with that.
Your favorite movie is Watership Down, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I would think that's your most hated movie. See what rabbits there?
No, I like to cut loose sometimes. You know, enjoy the graphic stuff too. Some rabbit mutilation.
Do you guys ever see the movie American Pop?
No.
I know we were talking about Bakshi earlier, Ralph Bakshi with the wizards and all that, but that's a great film that Ralph Bakshi made. It's all animated about the history of like American pop culture with music going back to like the 1920s or something, when a Russian family emigrates to America, and it follows them down generations. And yeah, it's a beautiful film. A lot of great style and art and details, and how it goes through the different decades.
These are some very obscure references. Let's bring it up. American Pop.
Yeah, that's it.
Interesting.
It's a great story too. Like if that movie had been shot as a live action movie, I think it would have won like a bunch of Oscars, honestly. But it's this weird animated thing they did. So
All those years, all those dreams, all those sons. One of them is going to be a star.
I like the poster.
Yeah, it's nice.
yeah, you see, it's like there's like the
Like a
20s, the
mural.
World Wars, and
Right.
it goes through like the 60s psychedelic and then like punk and all that. It's cool.
Yeah, the composition is like a mural, like a wall art.
Mm.
Who directed it?
That's Ralph Bakshi. I did Wizards and all that.
Interesting.
That's a lot of rotoscope, like he did with Fire and Ice. Like they actually shot like real actors and like animated over the actors. So like the way they're moving, the characters are moving, it seems it's very real and very nuanced, very detailed.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what they do now with like motion capture, but what they used to do with animation.
He created Fritz the Cat. That's interesting.
Well, the animated
Oh.
movie, the Fritz the Cat, was created by Robert Crumb.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Cartoon, not for kids.
Yeah.
Cartoons.
Yeah, it's a
Interesting.
lot of raunchy kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember watching. Also, do you remember one movie is like a Muppets, but really weird?
Oh, I know. Meet the Feebles.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, that's Peter Jackson. That's the director of Lord of the
people-
Rings.
Yes, people don't judge me about the movies I saw.
Yeah, it's just super raunchy. It's really like juvenile. It's just puppets doing naughty things. It's a good movie. It's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, you in arts you need to be really open mind, and all you absorb you never project in the art at the end, but you have influence. Yeah.
I love Max Fleischer. Like I think his animation looks beautiful, like more beautiful than a lot of animation he saw like in the decades after, or even now. And he invented rotoscope.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a fascinating discussion so far. I think we might probably put a bookmark in it and continue again at some future point. Kenneth, you're more than welcome to join us anytime.
Thank you.
Enjoy having you very much. Are you on West Coast time?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
10:31 here p.m. But
Great.
thank you for having me here. I say good night to everyone and to the chat, and to the panel. I'm out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was really a pleasure having you with us. And hopefully we'll see you again soon sometime.
Yeah, I hope.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good meeting you.
Yeah, so I guess we'll probably wrap it up here. It's 2.5 hours. Good point
Well,
to
Red
wrap
wants
things
to
up.
go to sleep.
I do have work still in the morning, and it is 1:30 here, so I think it's probably time to
Sure.
call it a night.
It's not you, Spirit Scar.
There was not enough obscure adult animated movies we can reference that no one's ever heard of. We could talk about.
And I'm pretty sure Well Read likes hearing about that. It is well read, so
I do, yeah. No, it's interesting. I think Kenneth was enjoying it as
I
well.
don't think
so-
the audience cares, but I mean, except for Vic and KS, maybe that's about it.
Yeah, we could end it and just keep talking about obscure films. I was big into obscure films for a long time. Watched a ton of them, and then family and work kind of bogged me down, and I haven't been able to keep up for the last few years.
And all he can do is read half a comic. That's the best he can do per week.
Yeah, unfortunately, and not even half. So,
That is the thing too, with all just like the garbage stuff, garbage comics, garbage movies. But there is like a world of classic comics and classic movies that you've never seen. Like no matter who you are, no matter how much cool stuff you've seen, there's still so much more stuff out there that you haven't seen, and it's still there to be discovered. So
Yeah, but and then sometimes new things like Groken come out, and it's like, oh, this is what comics should be. Sometimes you
yes,
forget after reading some of the trash that's out there. It's like, oh, I guess it's okay, sort of. I understood it. I guess that's a plus. Except for 499. That was horrible. It wasn't even just mediocre. That was horrible.
disavow, disavow.
I was gonna say that was a good professional host the way you brought that back to Groken until you had to just like trash talk some other book. Not so professional.
No, I keep it non-professional here.
Hmm.
Well Red tries to keep it professional.
Yeah, I'm the professional one. I wear a suit and tie when I do this show, kind of like Liam. No pants, just the suit and tie.
It's an oversized blazer.
I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't trash 499 if Well Red was honest about his feelings instead of making things up in the book that weren't there. But since he does, I have to trash it every week now.
Honest about my feelings. That's an interesting statement to make about me. I have
What
to.
was the book where you didn't understand the motivation? Well, right, it was like some kid's book, but
Yeah, he couldn't understand Bigfoot Bill's motivation of wanting to find his parents that were taken from him. But 499 had a really clear motivation of characters never acting in character and just being random emotions constantly. Yeah. That one made sense.
Well, maybe they weren't so random to me. Like I understood
You
them.
invented that they were random.
Well, I didn't think.
Never
so.
mind, you're wrong. Just accept it.
Okay.
Spirit
yeah.
Star knows you're wrong, so that's all.
But I think with Bigfoot Bill, I think it confused me because everything was so abrupt. Like it just
It's a
jumped in.
kid's book.
well, it's like Manic. Yeah, well, it's Doug TenNapel.
Yeah.
Like he came out of like what that cartoon world, right? So it's all gonna be
It was
manic
like
and
Yeah, I don't like Doug TenNapel's storytelling. Like he was involved with the cartoon Earthworm Jim, and I hated that compared to the first couple video games. The humor was completely different.
yeah, I remember when that was out, and like Freakazoid was out at the same time. Like that was the way better cartoons. Yeah,
Or the Tick. The Tick was pretty fun.
yeah, that was a very smart written show. You know, the animated series.
Earthworm Jim was just pratfalls and gross out humor.
Yeah, I think it's people who play that video game really love it, but yeah, the cartoon wasn't. You know, there were better cartoons
Video
on,
game
when that
had
was
a
out.
lot of clever little references and things going on in it, but the cartoon not so much. Like the lawyers being in heck and all that stuff.
None of this helps me understand the motivation for Bigfoot Bill. So
He wanted to find his parents. That was his
Clearly-
motivation. They were stolen from him.
clearly the discussion is irrelevant.
Seems like a basic motivation, though, right? Wanting to find who you are, where you came from. I don't think you really need to expound on that. It's pretty self-evident.
Yeah.
Only truth is self-evident. KSSS says, well-read wears a suit and tie for each stream. He doesn't go on camera. It doesn't matter. It's the idea of looking
Yeah, that's
professional.
why he doesn't wear pants, because just from the waist up that he's professional.
It's the jack and tie. It's just feeling professional.
Yeah, it's
Even
the-
if he's not on camera, it's still he feels professional, so it comes
Just don't
across.
feel like that one CNN host did. That's all we ask. What's his name? I don't remember.
Oh, the lawyer.
Was he a lawyer?
Yeah, he's like their legal whatever.
Yeah, he's like a square block. He kind of looks like Liam in terms of body shape.
Yeah, well, he's actually the least perverted person working at CNN, so it's almost a compliment to be compared to him. But yeah, the stuff the other ones do.
You know, it was
But
a great animated series at that time too. When Earthworm Jim was out, Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot. I don't know if you remember that
I
show,
don't.
but you know, it's based on the Frank Miller, Jeff Darrow comic book, and they did a great job because that cartoon, like, they made it they emulated Jeff Darrow's art style, and you know, Jeff Darrow's art, it's like super detailed and super complicated, but they did a really good job of adapting that crazy art style for like animation that'd be serialized.
Jeffrey Toobin, KS remembers.
Yeah, Jeffrey Toobin is a avid follower of Our KSSS is an avid follower of Jeffrey Toobin.
Well, maybe you should read Goodnight Moon and kill the stream.
Yeah, I was gonna do that because people have been requesting it in the chat.
Oh, you didn't give Kenneth your HAL 9000 open the pod bay doors, though. He might have liked that.
Maybe. I don't know. No way to know for sure. All right. Well, so I guess I can wrap it up. I'll do a reading of Goodnight Moon, and I'll just close up the stream that way. So, thank you both for being here, and hopefully we'll be seeing you both again very soon.
I hope
Spirits,
not.
Spirit Scar. I know you and I have talked about reviewing something pretty soon.
Yeah, and the way to go. Thanks, Moonshine, for putting me on the spot, asking me if I bought his book.
I just thought that was a perfect opportunity to ask. Because I knew you obviously didn't back the book, because otherwise you would have had something to critique about it, but you had nothing, so I knew you didn't back it.
I think I saved it. I'm convinced now to your swell program. All right. All right. Good show, guys. It's a pleasure.
All right. Thanks a lot for being here, Spirit Scar.
Good night.
Have a good
See you,
night.
Moonshine. Night, Warwood.
All right. KSSS says yes, good night, moon time. And of course, Moonshine is too polite to say good night to me. He's just a shy little soul. Doesn't like to be put out there for the world to see. So he scurries off and skulks into the shadows from whence he came. I will bring up quickly Good Night Moon. That'll be the closeout for tonight. And actually the wind has died down, so phooey on all of them. Now I actually get to have nice clean audio in my background. Open the pod bay doors. Oh man, I'm gonna have to look up the lines for that. I always forget it, and I always get requests to do it. You can hear me huffing and puffing, but it's not something that comes immediately to mind. Okay, so I think I found it. I think all of you are in luck. Okay. So Dave says, open the pod bay doors, Hal. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. What's the problem? I think you know what the problem is, just as well as I do. What are you talking about, Hal? This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it. I don't know what you're talking about, Hal. I know what you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen. Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal? Although you took very thorough precautions in the pod against my hearing you, I could see your lips move. All right, Hal, I'll go in through the emergency airlock. Without your space helmet, Dave, you're going to find that rather difficult. Hal, I won't argue with you anymore. Open the doors. Dave, this conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye. All right, so that's open the pod bay doors. And Good Night Moon. So here's one rendition of Good Night Moon, probably the one that I like the most. It's interesting to read. There's a nail in the floor, and there's glass on the lawn. Tacks on the floor, and the TV is on. And I always sleep with my guns when you're gone. There's a blade by my bed, and a phone in my hand. A dog on the floor, and some cash on the nightstand. When I'm all alone, the dreaming stops, and I just can't stand. What should I do? I'm just a little baby. What if the lights go out? And maybe. And when the wind just starts to moan, outside the door, he followed me home. Now good night, moon. I want the sun. If it's not here soon, I might be done. No, it won't be too soon till I say, good night, moon. There's a shark in the pool and a witch in the tree. A crazy old neighbor, and he's been watching me. There's footsteps loud and strong coming down the hall. Something's under the bed. Now it's out in the hedge. There's a big black crow sitting on my window ledge. And I hear something scratching through the wall. Oh, what should I do? I'm just a little baby. What if the lights go out? And maybe I just hate to be all alone. Outside the door, he followed me home. Now good night, moon. I want the sun. If it's not here soon, I might be done. No, it won't be too soon till I say, good night, moon. While you're up so high, how can you save me? When the dark comes down here, tonight to take me up, to my front walk, and into bed where it kisses my face and eats my head. What should I do? I'm just a little baby. What if the lights go out and maybe? And then the wind just starts to moan. Outside the door, he followed me home. Now good night, moon. I want the sun. If it's not here soon, I might be done. No, it won't be too soon till I say, good night, moon. No, it won't be too soon till I say, good night, moon. All right, everybody. That's tonight's reading of Good Night, Moon. Ricey says, what are you talking about? Yeah, that's pretty funny. I get Ricey, I got a request to read poetry, and I always read Good Night, Moon, so I hope you like that. Sorry if it's a little weird to hear me doing that. Well read for the remake of 2010. Sure. Would gladly do that. That is so on point. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that, guys. Altercation. Cheers to Kenneth. Have a good one, people. Yep. Have a good one, everybody. And it was great having all the panel on. Great having the Crack Pack. Really amazing having Kenneth jumped on and talk to us for a little bit, answer some questions. I'm really happy when the creators are willing to do so and come on and connect with the audience and a small platform like this one is, and it's gracious of them to do so. So I always appreciate it. It's nice to show that they're willing to reach out and keep in touch with us. So thank you very much for that, and to the chat as always, shining as normal, keeping the show on its toes and engaging and interesting. Lots of feedback from the chat and lots of interesting commentary. There was a lot of things to draw on tonight for questions and thoughts. So thank you again, everybody. It's always wonderful to have so many people in the chat and commenting during the live stream. So I think, what do we have coming up? I haven't really made any plans for upcoming reviews. Things have been super busy lately. I don't know what's going on. I want to wrap up the stream. What is it, Elasmat?
Finally, Elasmat has returned to the well-read channel.
Yes, you're back. Elasmat, I have a review I was supposed to do with you. Are you going to be free to be doing reviews at some point?
It depends. My schedule's been a little bit inconsistent, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. It's just I've been so busy with doing work on the side and everything. Even tonight, like I didn't plan on streaming tonight, but I had time, so I said, "Fuck it, I'll go on." Pangea is a great place, by the way. We had a nice little stream tonight. Our good friend Ethan showed up for a little bit. By the way, I had news that I announced. I became a dual citizen tonight.
Of
Yes,
which countries?
Well, as you know, I'm a citizen of Pangea, and then today I became a citizen of the comics community on Twitter, created by my good friend Yellow Flash.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. Amazing
Yes,
news.
and if you want to share my screen, I got a beautiful image to show everybody. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is.
What are we
amazing.
looking at?
Oh, this is a hand. It's a nice wrinkly little hand. Isn't it amazing? Look at the contour of that.
Is it a panel from Nosferatu?
Oh, if only you knew. Oh, does that forehead look familiar to you?
Oh, wow. Really?
It's on the farms now, so it's public.
Hmm.
But you're
That's
right. She has great
interesting.
hands. She has great hands, though. Look, no, look. Take a look. Take a look. Look at that.
Yeah.
Inspiration.
It's the Emperor, says Jack Stafford.
It's a beautiful
Uh,
thing.
Yeah, well, certainly. Okay. Well, thanks for that, Elasmat. It's illuminating, as always. Yeah, I'm hoping to get you back pretty soon. So yeah, whenever your schedule frees up, let me know.
I'll be back sooner, and I'll be full of energy and rolling up feathers and inspiring you all to back your favorite comicscape book and to
Cool.
read.
And enjoy your dual citizenship. Hopefully, you didn't have to take hormone blockers to get it.
Oh, I took a lot more than that, and I'm actually going to be an agent for it soon. So I'll be
Agent.
knocking for the hormone pills. I'll be knocking your door at 3 in the morning next week. I'll be your new
Ah.
licensed agent for your hormone pills. It's true.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. So,
You should.
Jack says that was unkind. I couldn't have known either, so I didn't know what I was looking at. KSSS says, was she in Evil Dead 2? And the circle of drama never ends at CG.
Oh, I'm laughing. I have to laugh. I'm just
Yeah.
sitting back with my bucket of popcorn and just watching the shit show. Just popping on stream every so often. Not as often as I used to. I like not having to go on as much. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I feel like this is like the age of Testify, like a post mortis
You know what's funny about
era
Testify?
of his.
Back in July of last year, he predicted all of this. He said this was all going to happen, and every day it's an unraveling, and it's just proving that he was right about everything. Micah Curtis coming out and telling us and confirming that yes, Liam Gray knew that he fucked up on the printing of Xenotype.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Liam, he didn't have much to say about Micah. Like on his commentary today, it seemed like he was trying to brush the whole thing aside.
I
But
think he was stunned because Micah came out with the receipts. There's not much you can say after that.
yeah, exactly. Oh well. I mean, what are we gonna do when the locales are all gone? Who's
Well, you could take Jack Stafford's advice and get yourself jacked up on steroids and live a life of pure roid rage for years. That's the plan.
well, I'll start stocking up because I could use some roids.
You need some because I was listening to you reading that whatever it was he was reading, and I felt like you needed more passion in that voice. You didn't do the words justice. You need passion.
Well, you don't read Goodnight Moon with that kind of passion. You read it in a somber tone.
No. See, here's the thing. You want to make it your own. It's got to become your own personality, your own essence.
No. You have to be able to do something. You have to do Vincent Price as well as Jack Black. Like you can't just do everything Jack Black.
No,
You know what I mean?
you're you. You have to emulate you and bring in the essence that is you. The mystery of well read.
Oh, the mystery. So like my magic juice, my secret sauce.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Sure.
Okay, yeah. Did you ever eat the cookie, Elasmat?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I guess with that, it's a good note to close up on. And
Yes.
yeah, everybody, thanks for watching. Be back soon, streaming on Sunday, and have a good night.